A very good evening to you all on the West Ham Voice. Welcome to the West Ham Weekly on a Monday night. I'd really like to kick off the evening by having something really upbeat and fantastic to say about West Ham, but I mean, look, you know what I'm like. I always try and look for a positive on things, and even I've been struggling, especially after spending Sunday watching the football with David Wigram, that miserable moany git. The guy that wears all the shit shirts. I hope you're watching, Wiggy. I hope Emmerdale's finished. But on a serious note, it's not good, is it? I've been really trying to try and find the positives in the game against Crystal Palace at the weekend, and I struggled. I won't lie. It's the first time this season that I've really started to waver, and I'm still not a Moyes out advocate. I think I think you've got to give the manager the season and what it will be. But I'm going to try and sort of pick the bones out of the game later on in the show and talk about what, if anything, what went well or what didn't go well. But I'm also going to talk about the game against FCSB, which was a completely different kettle of fish, wasn't it? A much more happier occasion. If you can hear the cat in the background, what's the matter? Oi. Anyway, and also I'm going to bring you all the up-to-date news as usual, all the stuff that you may not care about, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. So why don't we start off with, well, let's see who's in the chat first of all and say hello to everybody. So let's scroll all the way up to the top. Good evening to you, Peter. How are you? What needs changing? West Ham's last four managers haven't done very well for us. The only thing that you all have in common is the ownership. I know you don't like the owners, Peter, but I can't deny that they have spent money and they were probably as excited in the 160 odd £1 million that we spent this summer as everybody was. It's funny. I got a message from someone earlier on, and it was like a little joke cartoon. It was from Neil from Down Under, saying that Moyes has been given a Ferrari, but all he's ever driven is a Morris Minor. And that might be the truth. Maybe he just doesn't know how to handle the quality of players that he's got at his disposal. Well, let's talk about that a little bit later on. You said it twice just to make sure you got in there. You said it 3 times. Thank you, Peter. Good evening, Paul. Greetings from New Jersey. I hope all very well. All a little bit unhappy, but all very well. And I hope things are going well for you over there. Good evening, James. How are you? Good evening, Chris. Will all you experts keep quiet? Why don't you... we don't want to upset Moyes or whatever it is. Osai Ben Right. I know. His comments that he made after the game on Sunday were a little bit baffling, and then Declan came out and was far more honest with his analysis of how shit we were, really. Graham, good evening to you. Pissing down with snow here in Alberta. Hi, all. It's pissing down with rain all day here, mate. And it's getting colder and colder. Gonna have to turn that heating on soon and spend a vast fortune. Rhonda and Tony, good evening to you. Morning, Stel. As much as Moyes must take the blame, the players must also take their share. Some of them can't complete a 10-yard putt. Absolutely spot on. And it's one of the things that I highlighted in the post-match analysis of the game that I did earlier today. Peter, again, like to add something to my earlier thoughts, but David Moyes is a match better of the 4. Of the previous 4. Yeah, but Bilic gave us a nice season, didn't he? Moyes has given us 2 nice seasons. Pellegrini gave us an all right season, but all of them gave us a shit season as well. And we're going through the Moyes shit season at the moment, aren't we? Vinay, good evening to you. I don't see Moyes as underperforming. It's more like he can't manage skillful players. It's the same as what I just said that Neil sent me. His tactics are for hardworking, not so talented players. There could be an element of truth there, Vinay. It's quite possible. Moyes apparently had his say as to who he wanted in the transfer window, who he wanted to bring into the club. And, if everything we hear is true, and remember my old saying is, don't believe everything you hear and don't believe everything you read, etc. But, if he was going for certain types of players, then maybe he is looking for quality. And I remember in the January window when he talked about, I didn't want to get any players in because they weren't of the quality I wanted. So maybe he wants these quality players. Maybe he just doesn't know how to handle them. That might be the answer. Good evening to you, Martin. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Good evening, Keith. I hope you're well. James, again, the Moyes is just testing his disciples. Fuck me. He's testing us to the fore. WHU, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Vinay, if Moyes tried to burn your house down, would still be Moyes in? That's the ultimate loyalty test. He's not likely to burn anyone's house down. I'm not sure if you can put that analogy in place there, Vinay, but Good try. Peter, good evening to you. Good win for the under-21s, 3-1 against Wolves. Thank you, because I was going to talk about, I don't know what the scores was. Mbama, 2 goals, Swire and Ashby, own goal for them. Good old, Ashby got an own goal for them. Well done, Mbama. I'm going to talk a little bit about Mbama and his style of play as well, what we might be missing in our senior squad at the moment. Not suggesting that Mbama should be starting in the senior squad. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is his style of football might suit what we need to try and do in the senior game. Howard, good evening to you, mate. Thank you for joining. Good evening, Mark. How are you? Thank you for joining. Usual suspect. How are you, mate? Steve Bruce has been checking out kebab shops near the London Stadium. Coincidence? I don't think so. Howard only caught 35 minutes of the second half. Casey Potts up higher for Sandscales looked really good tonight. Thank goodness. That's their first win in the under-21s this season. That's their first win. Is the tide changing for the under-21s? And could it soon be changing for the senior team as well? GMD will say, I wasn't late tonight, was I? Surely not. God, I miss Cyprus. It's still fucking 28 over there. I should be doing, I should just retire over there now. Bonjour to you, David. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. I hope you're well. Peter, think Mbama and Scars took lots of confidence from Thursday. Thank goodness. They bloody well needed it. Good evening, Black Country. Not bad, still on time. There you go. I was on time. There you go. Only 2 minutes late. Good evening to you, Dream Storm. Moyes needs to go. He's the shittiest manager that's ever graced the earth. Well, he's not. There's fucking worse, a lot worse. I don't want to name them, but there are much worse managers. The ex-Burnley manager ain't got a job at the moment. What would happen then if we got him? Yeah, we might tighten up the defence. We won't be any better, though, going forward. Howard, the youth won tonight, so that's a positive. Absolutely. I'm really pleased for that. Thank you for filling me in on a part of the show I didn't have. Kalispera to you, Philon. Oh, well done, Keith. Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thank you for joining. Andy, sometimes you can't polish a turd no matter how hard you try. He's not... I don't even want to say he's not that bad because it was tragic on Sunday. It was really... And I had Wiggy, David, just going on in my ear, like throughout the game. Not only was it turgid watching the game, when you got a mate that's just going on and on and on for 90 minutes, it just makes it even worse. Mark, all right. So how way the lads? Good evening to you, Mark. Thank you for joining, mate. Much appreciated. Ballon, a manager that has delivered 6th and 7th, deserves time to fix this. West Ham used to back their managers, and the news came out that the board have given him the vote of confidence. They said that they will review the season at the end of the season and not halfway through. So and many people read into that. Oh, when the board gives you that vote of confidence, that means he's on his way out. I actually don't think he is, to be quite honest with you. Good evening to you, David. Good question. What's the one positive to take from that game? There isn't. You see your mates, you have a drink. I guess that's the one positive. It even pissed down. That was a sign, wasn't it? We came out of the supporters club, walking towards the stadium. It was fucking pissing down with rain. And by the time we got there, we were absolutely drenched. That was a warning. That was a warning sign. Good evening to you, Paul. How are you, mate? Dream Storm, Moyes' credit in the bank has long evaporated. He's still got a few pennies left, I think. I'm really trying hard to be balanced. I really am. I'm not going to the dark side. I'm not going to the Moyes out dark side yet. I did say earlier this season, let's see where we're at when the World Cup break comes, and then we'll sort of talk about whether it should be Moyes out or not. I know we're close. We're close to that, aren't we? Because we're only sort of one game away. If we win that game, all of a sudden we leap up. If we lose that game, we could be in the bottom 3 when the World Cup starts. Mark, board says he's safe for the time being. Yep. Good evening to you, Schmeagol. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, Lee. How are you? I hope you've all had a great day. Not really. It's been pissing down with rain, Lee. I fucking hate winter. I really do. Max, hello, mate. How are you? Thank you for joining. Jackie, good evening to you. How are you? I'm very well, mate. Thanks for joining. Debenham Dave. I see some old names coming up here. unless I'm mistaken. I haven't seen you for a while, Dave. Correct me if I'm wrong. Daniela, how are you? Happy the under-21s won their first win of the season. Fantastic. Good evening, Darren. If we put in another drab performance like that against Leicester and we lose, shit will hit the fan, and Mr. Moyes and our owners are going to feel the force of our fans. Yeah, quite possibly. Good evening, Alf. How are you, mate? I'm trying to find anything positive now, but I can't find anything. Welcome back from it. Thank you, mate. I hope you're well. Are you there on Saturday? Let me know. Meet up at the sports club for a drink. Trudge, you should have seen the amazing volley goal Ashby scored for them. Did he score an own goal? But it was a volley. Oh dear. Well, at least he got off the mark. Jonathan, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Mr. Tiley, how are you? All Moyes time Moyes time, in my opinion, is coming to an end. If we lose to Leicester, he has to go. What's his problem with Ben Rama? He's been our best player. Yeah, it's weird. Very, very odd. Neil, thank you for that little email that you sent me. Much appreciated. 8:05. It's quite late in the day for you, Neil. 8:05 a.m. in the morning. Max, again, do you think that during the World Cup, West Ham will try and bring in a new manager? This is the question. It's a hard one to answer, to be honest, Max, because many people will allude to the fact that this is the best time to bring in a manager if they're going to do it. Let's see what happens with the game against Leicester. If we do play that badly again, and if we do lose, and if we are just above or just inside the bottom, we could be possibly in the bottom three if we lose that game at the weekend, depending on how other games go, because they're on level points with us and we're only 3 points off the bottom anyway. It's a possibility. The board have said no, but anything could happen. Adam, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Peter, evening, Stel. I deleted the first two because don't worry about that. See, they don't get deleted on my screen, so I see them 3 times over. Peter, Rice seemed more pissed off. He had to take a drugs test. Oh, did he? I didn't know that. That's probably why he had to run off. Because it's the first time I remember, he didn't come to applaud the flag or, sort of say thank you to the fans. And he was pissed off, but even he didn't play that well. Jonathan, playing devil's advocate, is Moyes being super defensive to stop the leaky goals and poor performance of players, and in turn compounding his downfall? Quite possibly. But if he's trying to be too defensive, it ain't bloody well working, because we're still conceding goals. We haven't had that many clean sheets. So if you're going to concede goals, you might as well go and try and score a few. That's my motto. The old Man United way under Ferguson. If they score, we score too. That sort of attitude. It's all very well if that method was working. If we're actually not conceding goals, then I'd say his policy is his approach is right. But we are leaking goals, and I'm going to talk about some of the players that we've got and who shouldn't be playing in the first team at the moment. Players laughing and joking with Palace players at the end. It's I don't kind of mind that. I know it's disappointing for us fans when we sort of see that our team has just lost, etc., and it's quite difficult to take. But players they do get on. They get on internationally, etc., etc. So I don't think they're dismissive of the fact that we lost. But I don't know. I can see why people will be upset at that. Ballon. Modern day players don't care how that looks. Should they care? I mean, they are professional footballers. The game ends and then they sort of, shake each other's hands and all that. Good evening, Jerry. I hope you're well, mate. Steve, how the fuck does Bowen and particularly Souček stay in the side? Moyes is off his head. Downs has to start in the Premier now over Souček. Going to talk about that later. Nil. Everyone's saying hello to each other. Devon and Dave. I've stuck up for Moyes and not necessarily yet Moyes out. However, our Premier League form is awful and conference is covering over the cracks. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the different way we approach things for the Conference League. And is it only just the fact that we're playing poor teams in the Conference League that we're doing so well? Or does Moyes adopt a different kind of play, a different type of tactic in the Conference League over the Premier League? I've got a feeling that he does. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on too. Paul, too much of playing out of form players when there are healthier options. Agreed. The manager's responsibility is to the club, not being loyal to players, regain form on the training ground, and as a sub, buy into that 100%. Adam, we will have to wait until the end of the season. Change it now and it could backfire. I'm pissed off about the game, but still think we can win the Conference League and get mid-table. That's a very high possibility, and that's almost the last thing I'm clinging on to. The fact that we could actually go really far in the Conference League. And yes, it will paper over the cracks on the Premier League if we don't improve. But so long as we don't go down, and I'm not suggesting that we should just finish just above the relegation zone, but if we do finish mid-table and win a cup, I kind of will take that. Jerry, thinking back, it was the very last knocking that we signed. Anybody in the transfer window? Did we panic buy? No, interestingly, I think for once, I don't think we did, to be quite honest with you. I don't think they were any panic buys. We had a long time. I mean, don't you remember the summer transfer window? We were getting really heated up because everything was taking so long rather than any panic. Yes, Moyes did have other targets, and some of them didn't happen. But every club goes through that. That's not just a West Ham phenomenon in the transfer window. Clubs have a list of players. They say, it's my number one target, etc., etc., etc. If we don't get him, we'll get him. If we don't get him, we'll get him. Every club goes through that. Did we have any panic buys? No. Strangely, I don't think we did. But there are one or two players that you will question, whether the players that we bought in, are they so much better than the players that we've currently got? That's where the problem is, or are they not good enough? I don't know. You look at Scamacca. I heard, people talking about Scamacca, the Haller number 2. I don't buy into that. You don't pay 30 odd million pounds for a striker and then all of a sudden he's shit. You've got to play to a player's strengths. And we all know, that we're still divided over that, aren't we? With regards to Haller, when Haller was here, half the fan base still say he was rubbish. Half the fan base say if you played to his strengths, we would have seen a different Haller. And I'm the latter. I think the same. And now we're starting to have the same debate over Scamacca. All of a sudden, people are saying, well, he's not good enough. Really? Is it too much of a coincidence that we keep having strikers who are not good enough? I mean, does everybody have to be an Antonio clone in order to play the game that Moyes wants? I don't know. Paul, Moyes was at the under-21s looking for help. Well, good. I'm glad he was at the under-21s to see what the players are like. Maybe there's inspiration to be got from there. There might be one or two players knocking on the door of the senior team. And why not? Isn't that what we want? To change it around. Let's not forget we've got a game on Wednesday in the Carabao Cup, and maybe he might be looking at one or two players to play in that game as well. I hope he does. Chris, I'm in Limassol. We had thunderstorms today. Mate, I was out there, came back just over a week and a half ago, and we had a couple of days of thunderstorms, and then the next day it gets even hotter. And they're pretty massive thunderstorms out there, aren't they, Chris? I hope you're enjoying yourself out there, mate. Vinay, the conference side is better at pass and move than the senior side. I wonder why. Exactly. This is my point, Vinay. They are better at pass and move. And I know Moyes has decided that he wants two teams. He has certain players that play in the Conference Cup, and you'll see it again. You'll see a completely different, almost a virtually different starting 11 that will play in the Carabao Cup on Wednesday over the team that played on Sunday. Has he got it right? Maybe it should be reversed. Maybe the team that played in the Carabao Cup, maybe the team that played in the Conference League should be starting in the Premier League, and the team that played in the Premier League should be starting in the Conference League instead. Maybe he's got it wrong somewhere. Martin, I'm beginning to think that Moyes won't be in charge after the World Cup. It's going to be very interesting, because if we start hearing rumours about managers being linked, there's an awful lot of talk about, who we want as fans, who we want as managers, but there's not an awful lot of rumour going around at the moment as to certain managers being sort of targeted or linked to. Sometimes, it's like the transfer window. Sometimes you start hearing about players being linked, and on occasion there'll be an element of truth, and on other occasions there'll be nothing in it. But we've not yet heard anyone being linked to West Ham on the managerial side. It's not worth it. Good evening to you. We miss Cornet massively. People often forget what he offers. I totally agree. He's out injured and it's a shame, but I'm going to talk about player updates. I've got one or two updates for you in a moment. Victor, good evening to you. Lose Wednesday and Saturday. Is it the end for Moyes? God, if we lose both games, well, I don't know, mate. I don't know. It'll be very close. It'll be a very close call. Jason, good evening to you. You have to set your standards in life. Where did the bottom for West Ham supporters, and where did the bottom for West Ham supporters, and where is the top? Where is the bottom? Well, I have asked that. I think I'm getting what you're saying is let's just get rid of that because no one's interested in Girls 69. There we go. That's gone. What is it we expect? Have we had two overachieving seasons? And what should we be getting now at West Ham United? Should we be regularly competing for the top 6? Should we be regularly competing for the top 4? Or are we just a mid-table team? Does spending 160 odd million pounds mean we automatically become a top 6 team? No, it doesn't. There are other teams that have spent money and they're languishing even worse than us. Usual suspect. Southampton want Nathan Jones from Luton. How's that for ambition? I didn't know that. That's a good shout. Good shout. Interesting shout. Jonathan, so if we wait till the end of the season, do we then give him another half or full season to see if it was a one-off? King, time to wait. That's the other thing. If we give him to the end of the season, then we decide that it'll be all right. We'll give him another. And then what happens? You're absolutely right, Jonathan. If we start again next season, like we did this season, my gut will tell me, Jonathan, that if we do keep him on, and then we start the next season off as badly, then he'll go. If we do keep him on until then. Good evening, English Yardie. I hope you're well, mate. How are you? Darren. Vino, the teams we played in the Conference League did not press us, hence why we could pass the ball around for fun. We don't have that luxury of time on the ball in the Premier League. Don't we? Don't we? I don't know. I'm beginning to question that, to be quite honest with you, Darren, because that was my thought process before. The teams that we're playing, they're inferior in the Europa Conference League. They're not pressing us. They're not as good, etc., etc. We've played some poor teams in the Premier League, and we've done we've done badly against them. Whereas and I know the teams in the Europa Conference in our group stage were probably not even Premier League level, maybe Championship level for one or two. But at the same time, we have played some not very good teams in the Premier League, and we've still suffered. Adam, Souček can't play against Leicester. He's been terrible all season. I think Fornals needs to play. I still rate him. Good shout. Good evening, John. I hope you're well, mate. I've gone to the dark side. Oh, dear. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Good evening, Henry. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Good evening, Will. Remember, Newcastle wanted Bruce out. They had a big problem. We have a bigger problem with Moyes. Yeah, good point. Chippy, good evening to you. Benrahma's goal was a positive on Sunday and the crowd were in good voice. Fair play. You're absolutely right. We were in good voice, especially when he scored. Ballon, drop Souček and Bowen. Kent, we're missing Oggy massively. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Can pass the ball out of defence really well and reads the game really well. Brilliantly, your leader. Gone wrong massively since his injury. Gives us, and that was about, am I right in thinking that was roughly about a year or so ago, give or take? You're absolutely right there. I think we have missed him enormously. He's a great influence, and I said about that when I did a post-match review of the game on Friday, the game against the FCSB. I talked about Ogbonna's influence. He's been a massive influence, and you're absolutely right. He's been a massive miss as well. Daniela, good evening to you. Sometimes you just have to accept a bad day at the office. It sounds like the team did not turn up, but it has to get better. But I'm so teetering, and I so don't want to be. How many bad days at the office are we going to have? Because we've had several bad days at the office. 8 defeats so far in the Premier League. E. Davis, good evening to you, mate. I see no signs of any improvement. Really need a change because the players look like they are at a funeral. How much of the blame did they take for that, though? English Yardie, when does Moyes' contract end? Not the end of this season, but the following one. Good evening, Jim. How are you, mate? Good evening, MJ. I hope you're doing better than the results. I'm doing well. I hope you all are too. Garino, how are you? We're all doomed. Let's scroll down a little bit. What were we on? I'm already 20 minutes late on the chat, and I haven't even started the show yet to talk to you about all the great things that have been going on apart from the senior team. Let's have a couple of more comments. Mark, did Moyes say Benny had a knock? He did. Rubbish. He looks said it. His look said it all as he tried. He did, and if you noticed, Nolan went up to give him sort of shake his hand and embrace him, and he didn't even go there either. He was really pissed off. Did he have a knock? I guess I can't tell you. Apparently he was heavily bandaged up around the knee, but it didn't look like he was suffering. Andy, welcome to the dark side, John. About time. Jason, if you step on a turd on the street today and you see it there the next day, would you step on it again? Nothing Moyes said after the match gives an inkling that he has learned anything. It's a shame because that's a man. The way he spoke in the post-match press conference is a man who's under pressure. You could tell he was almost clutching, and to sort of say, oh yeah, we're all experts, loads of experts out there, etc. Well, we don't pick the team, we don't pay the players' wages, we don't pay, we're not managers, etc. We're all amateurs who talk our, say our bit. Some are in agreement, some are not, etc., etc. But the way that everyone sang Benrahma's name when he got taken off, and they clapped him and they booed Moyes for the decision to actually take him off. Spoke volumes. Moyes heard it. That's why Moyes made the comments that he did in the post-match press conference. People didn't like it because Benrahma was actually giving us something to hope for. He was the one that was pressing and giving us something to hang on to. Woodhammer, good evening to you. I love you. Where are they from? Where did I get TK Maxx of all places, mate? It cost me about 15 quid. I bought the frame so I could put the lenses in. I only bought the frame. Paul Evans won't beat Leicester. They are on form and we are far from it. They are on the up. And look how bad they started off the season. They were bottom of the league. Only 3 weeks ago? Something like that. Was the Benrahma Dreamstorm, was the Benrahma substitution justified? Absolutely not. I don't think it was. Howard, how many times has that back four started this season? Do you know what? That was their third, I think, if I'm correct. Dawson was back for the Wolves game. That was the first time. Dawson was then the next game after that too. Was he? Fourth time this season. And I have talked about that as well, Howard. I've talked about how we don't have a solid defense. We haven't had a solid defense at the moment. It's been, players have been coming in. Kehrer has played at centre-back. Johnson's played at centre-back. We've been mixing it around, etc. And you are right. If that's what you're alluding to, that's probably the fourth time that lineup, that back four started this season. Black Country. Benny is not a Moyes signing. We all know that. Well, he's not, and it. But then, don't you use the ammunition that you've got and use Benrahma? He was on fucking form, Benrahma. That goal. What a goal! What a great goal! What an absolute fantastic strike against the run of play. That should have given us the up, but it didn't give us the up, did it? We almost sort of like. I think the players were surprised that we bloody well scored because we were not at the races. And then we thought you'd think that from that goal that we would carry it forward and take it to them. No, gave the fucking ball away and it was tragic. Vinay, shame we don't have an Everton fan here. They know all about. No, we've had Everton fans on here and they have said, I told you so. They've all alluded to it about, you'll get good years with Moyes and then you'll get a bad year. And people have alluded to, I think it was the third season when he was at Everton. Correct me if I'm wrong. Kent will probably know better than I do. I think it was the third season at Everton where they just missed that. They just got away from being relegated. They had a really bad season. First 1 or 2 seasons were okay. They were decent. And then they had a really bad season. And then the following season, Moyes came back with a vengeance and did really, really well. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe Kent might know. But maybe this is what Moyes is going through. The third year seems to be a problem for him. And then maybe he'll be backfiring on all cylinders next season. Will, Bowen has no chance to get in the World Cup squad. I blame Moyes for that. I don't. I blame Bowen for that. Bowen came back unfit. Bowen has not played very well. Bowen has had many, many chances by Moyes. You know what Moyes is like. He's really loyal to players. Bowen has had many chances to pick up. I thought when Bowen, the Liverpool game, when he was given the opportunity to score a goal from the penalty and he missed that and it just seemed to deflate him completely. Whereas if he'd had scored that goal, that might have given them the push that he needed. But what a shame. Trodge, good evening to you. Moyes wanted Eze and is still angry about it. Maybe Eze's fucking great, isn't he? He had a really bad injury. He's come back and he basically controlled that midfield on Sunday. He was excellent. Debenham Dave, last couple of years, the dressing room appears to be a great camp. Last couple of years, that the dressing room appears to be a great camp. Is Noble and Pearce leaving a factor? Morale appears low. It's very, very possible. People have asked that before. Noble, certainly. I mean, you have him in the changing room, even if he's not playing, to G up the players, etc. Maybe when it comes back in January, it might, he might be a little bit closer to the team and might give them the G up that they need. Pearce as well, such a great character. Of course, he's going to be missed. We still don't know what I can't remember the new guy's name that's come in. The bread name. I don't know if he's having an influence or not in the same way as Pearce had. Derek, good evening to you. We could lose heavily against Leicester and our board will still stick with Moyes. It's quite possible. It's quite possible that they could. Paul, good evening to you, mate. Moyes needs to replace during the World Cup, even if we beat Leicester. He hasn't got the tactical nous. He is being shown up every game by opposing managers. Moyes out. And a lot of people are saying the same thing. Usual suspect. I'm going to skip a few so I can get on with the show. Slagging off the players and supporters is a slippery slope to the doors marked exit. Yeah, it is usual suspect. I mean, let's not forget what Allardyce did when he cupped his ear and he asked, "What's the West Ham way? And what do you tell? Does anybody know what the West Ham way?" That was the last nail in his coffin, wasn't it? Or there or thereabouts. Moyes has got to be careful not to do the same thing. I absolutely agree. David, it would be interesting to know how many signings were Moyes' prime targets. Seems to be a fundamental mismatch. You know, I really do truly think, because we discussed it, we debated it an awful lot during the transfer window. You know, are these Moyes signings or are they, Sullivan signings, etc.? And it was made very clear. You know, Rob Newman was interviewed after the summer transfer window closed, etc. And he talked about the process that everybody went through, the collaboration that there was, and the ultimate decision maker was David Moyes. He said, I put names to him. All Moyes had to do was say, go for it, don't go for it, speak to the board. We got the money for it. Yes, we have, etc., etc. He said Moyes was the ultimate decision maker. If Moyes didn't want a player, and let's not forget where we were with transfers in the past, you know, scattergun approach, you know, not knowing what players we needed, what positions, etc. Bilic being given players, and Allardyce alluded to it as well, being given players, you know, players that we probably didn't need and so on. Moyes put a stop to that. He created the scouting network. He created the whole fundamental basis of how we, manage our transfers, etc. So I truly believe that the players that we brought in were Moyes signings. You know, I don't think that we're back to those old dark days where the manager doesn't have a say in the transfers. Will, would Harry Redknapp take the West Ham job in January if offered? Would we want him? How long has he been out of management for? Ballon. Where is the sick note Cornet, the modern Darren Anderson? We'll talk about him in a minute. Keith, I'm not a Moyes out yet, but I did find his comments about Benny and the fans disrespectful. That to me suggests he's scared of seeing the end. Yeah, I agree. I think he was a man in panic when he did that interview. I think he was probably frustrated, probably pissed off, wondering how the hell we managed to lose that game. Well, I'm wondering how the hell. But I think he was a man in panic. I think what he said, he must probably regret half the things he said after the game. Graham, good evening to you. If Sunday wasn't bad enough, we're in the middle of a snowstorm here with 20 centimetres so far today, but my vote is Moyes out, but only if we can get the right replacement. Well, what is the right replacement? How do we know that another manager is going to come in and do better? Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Sometimes you'll get a manager and it'll get worse. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop there and I'm going to go into the first, believe it or not, the first part of the show. So the women's team, very briefly, the women's team were in action at the weekend and they had a game against Brighton, a home game against Brighton. It was a 9-goal thriller. They got off to an early start. We scored our first goal through Lisa Evans on 3 minutes, only for Brighton to draw level just a few minutes later. Let me just go back to where I was there. Only to go back to equalise a few minutes later. We were 2-1 down on 20 minutes, conceding a penalty. And then in injury time in the first half, we were 3-1 down. It seemed like it was all over when Brighton then went up to, we got a goal back, but Brighton went up to 5-2. But there was a last few minutes were quite good, whereas Asai got a brace in the game to make it 5-4. Wasn't enough to get back in, get back anything from the game. But if anyone went to that, why not go and watch the women's team when the World Cup's on? It might be something that might cheer you up. Who else was in action? So thank you for telling me about the under-21s who won tonight, 3-1, I believe. Is that what you guys said? That was fantastic. The Sunderland under-18s were back in action as well. They beat Sunderland in the Premier League Cup 2-1. But unfortunately, with the other games that in that competition, it didn't help them to qualify for the quarterfinals of that game. So well done to them. Other news. Let's talk to you about some player news. Does anyone know Jacob Knightbridge? He signed a professional contract with the club this season until the end of this season. He's out on loan at the moment to Harrow Borough, who battled to a 3-3 draw against Yale Town. Now, the reason why I'm starting with this first loan signing is because it's the best one of all the loan signees that he apparently, despite conceding 3 goals, he kept the team in the game and in order to get the crucial draw. So 18-year-old Knightbridge, he's probably our 8th choice keeper or whatever, but well done to him. Meanwhile, over in Italy, Nikola Vlasic was back in action for Torino. He played in the team against Bologna in Serie A, but they lost that game. Now, everyone's talking about Vlasic coming back and he's doing so great. He's not doing so great. He scored 3 goals earlier in the season. He assisted in 1 last weekend, and that's been about it. He's going to go for 13 odd million pounds, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, maybe if we play him in his rightful position, we might see a different Vlasic, but I think the Italian league is much slower. It suits him. Other players out on loan. Nathan Trott played 90 minutes for Vejle in the 3-2 defeat against Hillerød Fodbold in the Danish First Division. Armstrong Oko Flex played the first half at Swansea City, battled 2-2 against Wigan Athletic. In the FA Cup first round, Dan Chester's played just under an hour for Colchester United, but were beaten 2-0 by Newport County. And Thierry Nevers was an unused sub at the hosts at Rodney Parade. That was in the same game. In the same competition, Mipo Odebeko featured for 67 minutes, although Port Vale fell to 3-2 defeat to Exeter City. And an exclusive for you, King Arthur has broken his ankle. He had an ankle fracture. He missed the game at the weekend. And when I do the research to find out what the hell's going on, when I look at loan players, etc., trying to find out what happened, and I found a little nothing's been mentioned about this. And I found it, of all places, on the transfer market website. I go in to see how many games players played. And next to his name for the game at the weekend was ankle fracture. So he could be out for about 12 weeks. It could possibly also affect his move to Besiktas on a permanent deal in the Turkish league. I'll let you know more when I find out, because I only found that out just before I went on air earlier on today. So wish him well. I hope he gets better, and I wish him well. Other news, with a number of players coming to the end of their contracts, one player has received his extended contract already. Aaron Creswell has had an extension of his contract. He was due to have his contract expire at the end of this season, but it's been extended for a further year, which will see him stay at the club until he's at the age of 34. Other players out of contract at the end of this season, but have yet to be concluded as to what will happen with them, is, as you can see, we've got Lanzini, we've got Sufal, Dawson, Fabianski, Ogbonna, and Randolph. That means that if none of these players, okay, let me go through them a bit more carefully. Lanzini, 29 years of age, his contract comes to at the end of the season, to the end of the season, but we've got a 2-year option. The club have got a 2-year option to extend his contract. 30-year-old Sufal, the same thing. There's a 2-year option on his contract. Craig Dawson, 32 years of age, his contract expires, and many are predicting that he will be leaving the club in January rather than at the end of the season. 37-year-old Fabianski, his contract comes to an end at the end of this season, but there's an option to extend it for 1 season. 34-year-old Ogbonna, his contract comes to an end, and there's no talk about extending that. And then 35-year-old Darren Randolph, his contract also comes to an end. Now, if we do let all these players go, and then there's speculation that maybe 1 or 2 other players might leave, like Declan Rice, etc., does that mean we have to go out and buy another 7 or 8 players again next summer and go through the whole process again of trying to acclimatize these players back in the team, etc., etc.? We could go another year with this. Could be another season of trying to acclimatize players if we allow 6 players to leave. Do I think any of them will stay? I think Lanzini's likely to stay. I think Fabianski's likely to stay. There's a good chance, I'd say, of maybe extending Ogbonna's contract by another season, using him as a sort of a backup player, etc. But with Randolph, I think he'll go. I think Sufal will go as well, even though there's an option to extend his contract. And we all know about Dawson. It's quite possible that Dawson, like I said earlier, is likely to leave sooner rather than next summer. Right. Let's go into your comments and then I'll do the last part of the show, which is to actually talk about what we've started to talk about for the last 40 minutes. And that's the 2 matches that were played and David Moyes. So, Cornet, yes, he was back training with the team, but he had a relapse on the grass and he's back out again and not likely to return now until after the World Cup. Keith, I'm not a Moyes out fan. I'm not Moyes out, but oh yeah, I've said that. Sorry, Keith. Let's scroll down a little bit. Jim, could be the players are not playing for Moyes anymore. Look at Villa. That's an interesting comment. Maybe if the if it's the tactics that they're not liking, then yeah, maybe they're just not performing. They're certainly not performing. They've got to start taking their fair share of blame as to what's happening on the pitch. Paul, I would argue that only Agerd was his only target. He got the others were second or third on the list. But there's nothing wrong with that, you see, Paul. And like I said earlier on in the show, a manager's going to have, half a dozen or so targets for each position that he wants to fill. So I'm sure he would have had, 4 or 5 targets for a striker, 4 or 5 targets for centre back, 4 or 5 targets for this, that, and the other. And you do go through the list because not every team is going to get their first choice players. Some teams do. Man City, they go out, they splash the cash, they get who they want. West Ham United are not there, and I think, yes, I don't think there's actually anything wrong. In fact, it would be really, really bad planning if you didn't have alternative targets, to your prime target. I think then that would be even worse because, like I said earlier on, don't forget how long it was taking, and fans were getting really frustrated. We're like a left back. When are we going to get a left back? When are we going to get a left back? When are we going to get a centre back? When are we going to get a striker? And, sometimes negotiations take longer. Sometimes negotiations don't work. So if you don't have those second or third choices, then that makes it even worse. Jason, winning the conference would be amazing. However, what makes you believe we are not going to get worse? Best players getting worse each game. Well, it's possible. It's possible. We still haven't really been tested in that Europa Conference. And I'll do a show later on this week about who we might be facing because I believe the draw's been made. And, when now we're going to sort of try and find out who we might be sort of facing in the last 16. We could pick up, I don't know, like a Lazio or something like that. And then what? Will we beat them? If we're playing like this, probably not. Mark, did you notice the board said we spent 200 million in the transfer window? Was this to put more pressure on Moyes to get things right? Well, we did. If you include all the add-ons, and this is the question mark about how much money we spend. If you include all the add-ons, then yes, it's probably closer to 200 million. But you take all the add-ons off, and you look at the basic transfer fee that's being paid, and it's probably closer to about 160 mil. Still a lot of money. Is it used to put more pressure on him? It's a good reminder. Debenham Dave. I think our recruitment was great. Problem elsewhere. Yeah. David, I read Moyes said he wants to keep Coventry because of his low maintenance. If true, that's odd. Well, I don't know about the low maintenance, but I think Connor Coventry has played quite well. It's taken him years to get into the senior team, and I actually think Connor Coventry is quite a decent footballer. He's not bad. He's not much worse than what we've currently got. He's certainly not the worst player in the squad. Daniela, will X please not Harry Redknapp? He sells all our best players to make a quick buck. That's why he went. Garino, Haller was not crap. Moyes just did not know how to use him. I 100% agree. Haller was not crap. And anyone that keeps saying, and now people are saying the same thing about Scamacca. He's crap. He's rubbish. He's low. He doesn't run around. He doesn't do this, that. He's not Antonio. We didn't buy him to be an Antonio number 2. If we play to his strengths, there'd be a completely different kettle of fish. Darren, our fans might settle for a mid-table finish playing negative football, but Pac-Man and Scamacca will not. They will be off at the end of the season. But Pac and yeah, I get you. We'll all be off at the end of the season. Paqueta, etc. Yeah, quite possibly. English Yardie, I'm very nervous for the Leicester match. Leicester are in form. Palace bossed us from start to finish. That should not happen with the players we have. Paqueta, Scamacca have regressed under Moyes. What about them, though? I'm going to talk about Scamacca in a minute, but Paqueta, okay, actually, why wait? Let's talk about them now. Paqueta, for example, I'm just going to get to my notes. He looked like the player that clearly was just back from injury. I would have taken him off at around about the 60-minute mark. And we're talking about Fornals. I would have put Fornals on. And I talked about how Fornals performed in the game against FCSB on Thursday night, where he was played in the central attacking midfield role that he was originally brought to play in. And he did an awful lot better. He was much more suited to it. He was like, ahead of the game. He could see how the game was going. And he was that link up between midfield and attack. Now, the thing that's missing for me for Scamacca is support. You kind of normally expect either Benrahma or Bowen to get up there and support him, but they were being sort of a bit too far out wide. Whereas a central attacking midfielder, Paquetá, did his best, but he tired. And I would have taken Paquetá off after 60 minutes and put Fornals in there because he's a runner. He's a workhorse, but he doesn't forgotten how to attack as well. And I think that was the missing bit. And I wouldn't have taken Scamacca off, for example. I would have kept Scamacca on and given him more support. I think he was a bit of a fall guy for our first half performance. I could name a lot of players that were a lot worse than Scamacca. But I felt sorry for Scamacca. He was a bit of a fall guy. Now, if you put Antonio on, then all you got to do is just pump the ball up. We weren't even doing that. And there are a number of managerial decisions. When I look at the game against FCSB on Thursday and how we played in that game, and then I look at the game against Crystal Palace, they did boss us, by the way, because they didn't have any better players than us, but they utilised their players in a better way, and their pass and move was superb. Our passing and movement, how many times did we manage to give the ball away? We did this against Man United the weekend before. We kept passing the ball to Man United players, and we suffered for it in the game against Palace because they punished us for it. The Dawson pass to Kehrer, I heard people going, Kehrer's shit. He should have controlled that, or he should have let it go out. He should have let it go out. No, he was being passed the ball, and the way it went at him at speed, there was no chance for him to control it. It was a misplaced pass. It was too hard going towards him. And as a footballer, you don't let the ball go out. You try and get it under control. But that was a Dawson error. And that was again through our really, really bad passing. Fabianski, as another example, for me, he's been a fantastic goalie this season, much better than I thought he would be. But the one problem with Fabianski is his distribution. You look at the game against FCSB on Thursday, the way Areola gets the ball out to players is a much healthier way. It allows us to start to create an attack from the goalkeeper onwards. We don't do that in the Premier League. For some reason, we can't even pass it. I think someone said it in the chat earlier on. We can't even pass it 5 yards to another player in front of us. We seem to be mishitting balls, over kicking them, under kicking them. The balls are not getting to the players, whereas we were fluid in the game against FCSB. Okay, you're going to argue. It was inferior opposition. They didn't press us, etc., etc. But our pass and movement on Thursday was superior to our pass and movement in the Premier League over the last few games, or quite a number of games. And I don't understand that. Are the players nervous? Are they are they so scared about giving the ball away that they're trying to, overdo it? And by overdoing it means that they mess up. I don't know. It's weird. But you look at the players that played on Thursday night, and they played with freedom. Okay, the game was won. The group stage was won. It was no pressure, etc. But hardly any of the teams have given us any problems. And in fact, when they have given us problems, like Silkeborg, for example, who were very unlucky not to get any points off us when they played us, it was more because we were playing badly rather than the opposition playing better. And this is what we're doing in the Premier League. We're just playing badly. We've got people are saying it. We've got the good players. We know players are skillful. The Brazilian number 10, the Italian number 9, the England number 4, all that sort of stuff. Everyone has said it, but for some reason we're not gelling. Declan himself played poorly on Sunday. It's probably one of the worst games he had. Even he was giving the ball away. Dawson was doing it. Fabianski was doing it. Every player seemed to not be able to pass the ball in front of them. And I think that's the big difference between there seems to be a lot more composure and a lot more confidence in the teams that have been put out in the Europa Conference League over the teams that have been put out in the Premier League. And when you look at some of the players that played in the Europa Conference, and you look at them and you start thinking to yourself, why are they not playing in the Premier League? Agard, for example, yet again he impressed in the game against FCSB. Okay, I get it. He wasn't put under pressure, but what he did well. And you know what he can do? He can pass a ball, and he can pass a ball from one player to another without overhitting it, mishitting it, or whatever. So there's a player there that maybe is now ready for the Premier League. We said Ogbonna. We talked about Ogbonna and how imperious he was in the game on Thursday, and Kent has alluded to it. He's being missed greatly. Why not just bite the bullet? If you're not, I think Zuma's playing okay, but if Dawson didn't look at the races, but this is what Moyes does. Dawson has won his place in the team, but now Moyes is not going to drop him for love nor money. I think Ogbonna can, put him to the test, put Agard to the test. They both played absolutely brilliantly against FCSB and against Silkeborg the week before as well. So why not give them a chance to play in the Premier League now? Downs, another player who did superbly in the game against. I know we started more Premier League games recently, but of course the big question is, why is he not playing ahead of Souček? And I've been an advocate. I've protected Souček. I said, give him time, etc., etc. But even Souček, even I'm saying now that Downs looks much more composed. And when he came on in the game against Palace, he hardly gave the ball away, and he was snappy. He was getting at them. He was trying to close them down, not to give them any chances. Whereas before Downs came on, Palace had the whole pitch to themselves. And then Fornals, as I've just mentioned, Fornals, the game he played, don't put him out left where he disappears. It's not his fault, that he's not right for that role out left. But you put him in central attacking midfield. He's the link between the midfield and the attacking lineup, and that changes his game, and that will change Scamacca's game. And I think that was another player that we should have brought on. Fuck me, he was brought on in the last minute of the game against Palace. I didn't get that substitution. I didn't understand the logic of it. I didn't know why Moyes decided to put a sub on with less than a minute to go. I talked earlier on, and thank you for telling me that Mbama scored 2 goals tonight. I talked about that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting for a minute that Mbama should be starting in the senior team. But what impressed me about Mbama was his movement, playing off the shoulder of the last defender. The way he was sniffing around the 18-yard box, looking for an opportunity, trying to get. He got on the end of several chances. There's a very good save in the first half on Thursday at FCSB where he almost scored. But what he was doing, he was like a goal poacher. He was in and around the 18-yard box, looking for that movement. We're not getting that. We don't have any players in the box when we're going forward. We talk about creating, we didn't even create any chances on Sunday, but in previous games against Man United, against Liverpool, etc., we're creating all these chances, but we don't have a player like Mbama who's getting in there, trying to get on the end of these chances. That's another thing that we seem to be missing in the senior team. And then crossing. I mean, I'm going to give you Scarles as an example, because the 16-year-old lad was superb. And again, I'm not advocating that Scarles should be starting in the senior team. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about that. But the way he played and taking the ball and whipping it in, whip it in. What has happened to our crossing? Creswell was good at it, and we brought Emerson in, who's meant to be good at it, and we got, we don't seem to have players that can cross the ball. Whereas Scarles was teaching the seniors, this is how you do it. Get it, whip it in. Even whether it be a low ball or a high ball or whatever, get that ball in. And that's another thing that we're missing in the senior team, and it's a shame because we have got good players, we have got excellent players that are worth playing, but there are players like Souček, not performing. He's not the only one. I think Fabianski has been great in goal, but his distribution's poor. I think Dawson didn't look on the. I don't think he's back to his best. Maybe he's distracted by the fact that he does want to leave. Who knows? But I think Dawson maybe now needs replacing with someone like Agard. Put Agard on, then you've got Zuma that can go on the right side of defence rather than having to play on the left side. That doesn't suit him. So there's another player. There's Downs. There's Agard that can come in. And Moyes has got to start taking the blame for something. I know it's his decisions at the end of the day. People talked about the players that he favours. He seems to be stuck on, players like Fabianski, players like Souček, players like Bowen. Bowen, I mean, I think the thing that upset fans more than anything at the weekend was that Bowen was not in the game at all. He was missing. He went missing. And that's not like Bowen. You know what Bowen's like. We all know what he can give us, but he was missing. Whereas Benrahma was at least trying to create stuff. And so it was a massive shock because when we saw the players getting ready, I thought Lanzini's coming on. Who's Lanzini going to come on for? And then when Lanzini came on and it was for Benrahma, it's like, what is going on? I don't understand. Bowen, and I don't blame Bowen. If he's playing poorly, then it's the manager that has to make the choice to bring players off who are playing poorly. He took Souček off, and it was awful because people clapped that, people cheered that. I didn't like that. People cheered the fact that Souček came off for Downs. But it just goes to show what fans are thinking at the moment. And to me, Moyes, I think if there's one thing that he is guilty of, and much anything else, is he is a very loyal manager, but his loyalty is going to be the thing that could probably crush him in the end. So there's a number of things that can change. Areola in goal, purely not because he's a better shot stopper. I think they've both been great this season, Areola and Fabianski. But when it comes to distribution, I think Areola's got the edge over Fabianski. And then in defense, I think, Dawson, I love him and he's been fantastic. But I think you put Zuma on the right, you put a Gerd next to him, or you play a back three with a Gerd, Zuma, and Ogbonna. All of a sudden, you've got a really solid defensive backline there. Ogbonna, the experience, Zuma on the right side, and a Gerd in the middle, controlling things, carrying the ball out, would make a massive difference for us. Downs for Souček is another change that he can make. Bowen is just out of sorts. Use Bowen as an impact sub rather than starting him. Or if you do start him, then if he's not doing it by halftime, then do take him off. He did that with Scamacca, and I actually thought Scamacca shouldn't have come off, to be quite honest with you. To me, he just wasn't given the ball often enough, and then when he did get the ball, he was isolated. And like I say, all right, Paquetá didn't do it, but there's Fornals. If Paquetá's not doing it, you've got Fornals that can go in the middle there to give Scamacca that support that he needs. There are options for Moyes. Moyes has just got to make, it was actually a real big surprise that he made a substitution at half-time. But for me, it was the wrong substitution. I think Scamacca should have stayed on. Now, there's a lot of people that are advocating that Antonio and Scamacca should start up, should play together. I don't think so. I've said this a number of times. I think they're very different players. And I keep saying it. I've said, do forgive me for repeating myself, but there are a number of players that will complement Antonio, and there are a number of players that will complement Scamacca. I don't think Antonio and Scamacca complement each other. So it's not so much about playing the two up front. It's about playing players that are kind of on the same wavelength. Paquetá, all right, because he was back from injury, he should have got the 60 minutes and then taken off, and then Fornals come into that middle to play behind Scamacca instead of Antonio. And Moyes said when Benrahma came off that we played better. Oh, that was a real slap in the face, to be quite honest with you, because Benrahma, as I said, was the only player that looked to me that might be a bit of a threat. The goal he scored out of absolutely nothing, and it was a superb strike. And then when that player gets that confidence and scores a goal like that, he's likely to want to try again. And by taking him off was a shock. Right, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to read your comments now and go through them as quickly as I can because I'm half an hour behind as usual. And usual suspect. Tony Pulis has been seen nosing around the local chip shop near the London Stadium. Coincidence? I think not. Black Country. When Scamacca comes deep to collect the ball, something wrong. There is something wrong, but it is his style of play. Look, we knew that's what he was like before we bought him. He does drop deep, but what happens there is you've got players that support him. So when he does drop deep, there are players around him, pass and move, pass and move, pass and move. What we're having with Scamacca at the moment, when he does drop deep, there's no one around him to get that pass and move going, so then he can move up and get on the end of the ball. Now, like I said earlier, I'd rather have Scamacca just fucking goal hang. I don't care. Just goal hang. Stay on side and just goal hang and wait for that ball to come in. But I guess when you're not in the game, you want to get into the game. Hence, you drop deep, which I think is wrong. Vinay. Moyes is 62, not 22. Can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, he's going to have to fucking learn. I'm swearing a lot tonight. I do apologize. He's going to have to learn one or two because it could be his job on the line. Schmiegel. Moyes is the oldest manager in the Premier League now. Time for Moyes to do the right thing and retire from the game and find himself an armchair to sit on with a pipe, slippers, and a packet of words. Vinay, the conference team had a better game. Yeah. Areola. I've been advocating for Areola for since the beginning of last season. Paul, I don't think we'll get relegated, and I think we'll have a good chance as anyone to win the Conference League. I still don't want Moyes to be the one to reinvest the eventual Rice transfer funds, and we know that that's coming, don't we? We know. Good evening, Ken. Sorry I didn't meet you at the weekend, mate. I hope you did enjoy yourself as much as you could have done. Hi, still good show. Listening to both Haller and Skamaka's really good players, but Moyes is destroying the players. Yeah, a lot of people are saying the same thing. Jerry, we have to try and play Skamaka like Spurs play Kane, get him on the ball much more. They're different players, but we need to do more than Creswell and Bowen throwing balls into the box. I don't mind players throwing balls into the box if there's someone on the end of them to get on the end of them. Neil. The only way to get the best out of players like Skamaka and Allaire is to play a 4-3-3, as the players like that need players close to feed off or pass to make things happen. Bang on. Garino. Rice would have retired by the time Moyes spent that money. Richard, we need new offensive coach. Don't you agree, Bielsa? Well, I'm trying to remember the name of the Warburton. That's it. Mark Warburton. Isn't he meant to be an attacking coach? Am I wrong in thinking that? That's what I thought he was. Apparently he's got an attacking coaching background or something. What's he doing off the pitch? What's he doing in training? Because, mind you, having said that, we do create a lot of chances. We're just not putting the bloody things away. Adam, we still need a striker with pace. Skamaka is good, but hasn't got the pace needed. Another striker with pace, good to have a double-edged attack. Well, this is what I'm talking about. Mbama. Mbama doesn't necessarily have great pace, but he's got, for a young lad, 18 years of age, he's got an awareness of what where a striker should be. He's got an awareness of where that ball's going, so he tries to get into those positions. David, I'm interested in Girl 69. I'll put the thing up for you again, mate, if they come back on. Andy, last season Europa League squad was chalk and cheese to the squad used from the last 16. Same will happen in the conference. First team squad will play from the last 16. Will they, though? Let's see what happens. I don't know. I think what happened last season, maybe more by not by choice, but by the fact that he had to. He started mixing up the team more than he wanted to. If you remember, it was Dawson and it wasn't Dawson and. Trying to think of the other centre back that started all the Europa games, and it was Zuma and Ogbonna that was starting the Premier League games. Then we got an injury to Ogbonna. Then we got an injury to Zuma. That's how Dawson got his opportunity to play in the first team, and otherwise it would have been Dawson playing in the Europa League last season. It was because he had no choice that Moyes mixed it up a little bit more a little earlier, and I think it kind of worked. Because the one thing. It's all very well having a big squad and fantastic. I'm really pleased that we got 23 players, senior players. If you include Coventry, etc., we've got 23 senior players that we can mix it up, etc. That's fantastic. But when you completely separate them and you say this 11 for the Conference League and this 11 for the Premier League, I don't think that's good. You need a bit of a mix. You need to mix those teams up, and put players in and out of those teams. Give Downs. A bit of the Premier League and a bit of the Europa Conference League. Give a Gerd now that he's back. All right, he's only had 2 games under his belt, but give him a game against Leicester. Let's see how he fares. And if he ain't got the stamina, give him the first half. Give him 45 minutes. Give him 50 minutes, 55 minutes, and see how he gets on. Other players the same. Mix it up a little bit. Show the likes of Dawson, Fabianski, Bowen, and players like that, if you're not going to play to your strengths, there are other players that can walk into this team and take your place. That's what their players need. When you feel too comfortable, I'm not saying that the players are not putting in the effort. I'm sure they are. But if Souček knows that he's going to be picked regardless, if Bowen knows that he's going to be picked regardless, look what he's done with Antonio. Antonio started the season and many of us thought he's not going to drop Antonio. I was really surprised that Skamaka started playing Premier League games because Skamaka proved what he can do in the Conference League. I think he should be doing the same. Downs has started to do that as well. I think Areola has proved that as well. There are players that are proving themselves in the Europa Conference, and maybe that's great. It's what it's there for. But now start mixing it up, and maybe in the last 16 he will do more of that. God, I speak a lot, don't I? Kenneth, those teams we met in Europe were shit. Yeah, they were, but we still had to beat them. Silkborg gave us a really good game. They were very unlucky not to get something out of that out of the first game. Alessandro, good evening to you. 2 games left before the world get rid of Moyes. A lot of people think that. I'm not so sure, Alessandro. I don't know. I think he's going to be kept on. Black Under, you're interested in the girl 69 as well. WHU, I can see it in the tea leaves. We will lose to Leicester, but Moyes will get off scot-free because of the start of the World Cup. He does have put it another way. He does have an opportunity, doesn't he, to get his shit together. He really has got that opportunity to get it all correct. And maybe the World Cup will be that time when he will be able to sort things out and get his act together. I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to go to a bit of general news because I should have done it at the beginning of the show. So let me jump into that and I'll talk to you just a little bit about one or two other things which are relevant to a point. So let me scroll up with my notes. So a bit of general news. The first one is Kenny Brown. If people remember, I mentioned earlier on this season that Kenny Brown came in as head coach of the under-9s and the under-14s, and now he's been moved up to become the academy manager with Ricky Martin, not the singer, Ricky Martin leaving the academy to join Stoke City. So now Kenny Brown is in charge of the whole academy, interim in charge of the whole academy. We wish him well. There's a testimonial being planned during the World Cup, and that's what prompted me. There's a testimonial being planned during the World Cup, and that's against Cambridge United on the 6th of December at 7 p.m. kickoff at Abbey Stadium. It's a testimonial for long-serving Cambridge United captain Greg Taylor. He's also a massive West Ham United fan. So tickets are going to come out about that soon. They're not doing so well either. They're lying, I don't know, they're quite low in their league. They're not doing so great. So it'll be the battle of the losers, I guess. Great gesture, though, for Greg Taylor, who's in his 10th season and possibly his final season at the club, having made 357 appearances. Right, World Cup. We could have anything up to 9 players going to the World Cup. Those with an outside chance of making their national squads include Kurt Zouma for France, Fornals for Spain, Lanzini for Argentina, and of course Bowen for England. The 5 players that look like they will definitely go to the World Cup are, again, now that he's back from injury, for Morocco. We've got Paquetá that's going to go with Brazil. We've got Kehrer for Germany, and Areola will be there with France. And of course, Declan for England. So it's possible that we can have up to 9 players away during the World Cup, but almost definite that it will be 5. So given the fact that we might have only 5 players away, the bulk of the squad will still be there during the World Cup in order for Moyes to get his shit sorted out and get these players playing the way they should be. Let's go back to your comments. Keith. An army could have the best troops, but if the general is shit and the taxes are shit, morale drops and those troops become easily beaten. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I like that analogy. E. Davis, good evening to you. It comes down to attacking players not being allowed to get too close to each other or make runs. There's no runs dragging defenders. It's totally stagnant. I must admit, I agree with you. It does look like, is that, are they being told to? I can't imagine. I've had this argument with my friends, like, surely Moyes doesn't say don't get past the halfway line. Surely Moyes doesn't say go and try and get a goal. I'll just keep it. There's an element of, keep it tight. We talked about that earlier, not conceding goals, etc. And I totally get all that. But what, to the point of not being on the attack? We are on the attack. It's just that it's been happening too late in the games. Kenneth, if Moyes stays, will be relegated. I'm going to say no. Vinay, Scamacca and other players I suspect can't wait to the end of the season. There'll be a players' revolt. Paquetá and Scamacca not used to crew tactic. That's probably true. Oh, is it true? Maybe. Alessandra. Moyes needs to go. Not good enough. Close the door now. I like the name. Close the door now. Come on, lads. Let's not blame Moyesy. End of the day, Palace are just too good for the squad we have at the moment. They played really well. You know what? I think Palace are playing really, really good, attractive to watch football. They've got good footballers. Are they any better than ours? I'd say no. We should be better than them. But I've got to give them credit where credit's due. Their football was attractive. They went when they. Someone said it earlier on about not getting enough players in attack. When their second goal, for example, it was from fuck me. It was an Antonio repeat. I remember when we were at the Palace ground a few seasons ago when Antonio had the ball, and what did he do? He gave it to the hands of the keeper. The keeper threw it out, and they went and scored an equaliser. That was a few seasons ago, and Antonio did exactly the same thing. Exactly. And Antonio's a sort of player that when he has to do something on instinct, he can probably do it and do it well without thinking about it. He had so much time and about 4 players to target in the box. What did he do? He passed it to the keeper. The keeper threw it out, and they went and scored a winner. What was interesting, though, is even though they were under attack, they had about 3 players in our half occupying our defenders, which meant that our defenders couldn't push up because if they did, then you got 3 attacking players on the break, and it was interesting. They did play well, and their tactics that they worked, and maybe that is what someone else said earlier on, not having enough players in the attack. So when Skamaka gets the ball, he's all isolated. English Yardie. Stout, our squad is just as good as any other team in the Premier League. Bone and Sojek are out of form. Agreed. For us to be bossed by Crystal Palace makes no sense. Moyes is a dinosaur. Sojek and Bone will start against Leicester. Look, I don't mind if they start against Leicester, but they've got to pull their pants up. And if they're not playing, drag them off at halftime. And I think that's the disappointing thing. He dragged Skamaka off, which to me was a mistake, and kept Bowen and Sojek on for longer. E. Davis. The only player allowed to be creative is Creswell, which is a massive problem. Well, I don't know about that. Paquetá, Benrahma, Bowen, they're all attacking, creative players, but they're just, Benrahma aside, the others haven't been playing to their level. Paquetá, I like him, but it was evident he wasn't match fit and he should have been taken off earlier. And like I said earlier, Fornal's coming on. How far behind am I? This comment is 9. Fuck, I'm almost an hour behind. So I'm going to have to crack on. In the true West Ham way, I can see us getting to the final of the Conference Cup, but at the expense of a relegation fight. So long as we don't get relegated, I'll take a final and win it any day. So long as we don't get relegated. Paul, Premier League has been a disaster. Games won, we're all lucky. I wouldn't say that. I think we beat Wolves pretty well. The goal against Aston Villa was a lucky goal. I must admit that. Howard, Newcastle weren't anywhere in Europe or top 6 under Bruce. No comparison. True. P. Gads, we've been having trouble scoring for a year now. Can't go Moyes out if we're looking at relegation. He's the manager to get in that spot. But ironically, yes, he'd be the manager to make sure we don't get relegated. The irony. Kevin, how are you, mate? I'm very well, and I hope you are too. Garino. West Ham have a habit of not turning up after having a week off after being rested. What's going to happen after 6 weeks then, after the World Cup? Good evening, Andy. How are you? We haven't played well in the league since we started in Europe last season. It's like Moyes and the team can't get their heads around playing Thursday to Sunday. Well, they did it well last season. And maybe, like I said earlier on, maybe he needs to be mixing those teams up a little more so you get that consistency going rather than having to wait a week. Players kind of, our players are kind of used to playing, and players say, I prefer to play than train, so having the whole 11 not play and then getting them out, it's almost like they're going out cold. It's weird, but maybe then it's not suited to them. Maybe more players should be playing Thursday and Sunday, and then when they tire, take them off. Usual suspects. Sean Dyche has been checking out the pubs now. Ken, a year ago today, Oggy was injured as we were 4th or 5th at the time. There you go. I knew you'd know. Richard, hi, mate. What about Bielsa, Pochettino? He knows how to play our offensive players with the right form. Honestly, I get it. I get why fans want alternative managers, attack-minded managers, etc. I know I'm gonna probably. I hope I don't regret it, but I think we should. I think Moyes should stay until the end of the season and see what happens then. Do I think we'll get relegated if Moyes stays? I don't think we will. If he doesn't change his ways, we're going to struggle. But let's see what happens at the end of the season. I hope I don't eat my words. Darren, the players' body language looks poor. There were even players having a go at each other on Sunday. They look as frustrated with Moyes' tactics as we are. But they should also be, I get it. Tactics are not great. But when you've got professional footballers that can't even pass to each other, the Dawson pass, Declan, mispassed it several times in the game. Souček mispassed it several times in the game. We had all players around the team that were doing that. The number of times we had the ball, and you can't blame Moyes for that. His tactic is, again, get the ball and mispass it. Players have got to take the blame for that. Dawson's pass to Kera was dreadful. Declan was misplacing it, etc. So what happens then? Yes, you can blame the manager for the tactics, but you can't blame the manager if players are not passing it to each other properly. Kai, good evening to you. Get Poch in, otherwise Moyes is going to waste all the money we spent on these new players. Skamaka, Paquetá already had enough of him, I'd say. Benrahma had enough of his bullying as well. Yeah, I think Benrahma, I do feel mightily sorry for Benrahma, I must admit. Kevin, I'm very well, mate. Won't come out of the ground feeling happy now that we're coming out feeling that we want to split their God, that's extreme. Jonathan, do forgive me. I've got to catch up because I'm literally 40 odd minutes behind your chat. We might not be experts, but from his expert opinion, what is his explanation for the team's performances? Bios and players, poor tactics, constant injuries, and overall inability to play basic football. Yeah, just mentioned that. We don't even seem able to just pass the ball. English Yardy. Moyes was slagging off the fans. Not cool. That tells me he's losing it. Agreed. Mentioned that earlier. Moyes has lost me. I see newer players regressing under him. That's crazy. Paquetá, Skamaka, especially Skamaka, doesn't look happy. Yeah, and I wouldn't be happy if I'm being literally hung out to dry in a way. Let's scroll down. Do forgive me if I can't get all your comments in. If we'd signed Haaland this season, Andy, he wouldn't have started any sooner than Skamaka, saying I need to see his fitness levels and when I can fit him into the team, out of ideas and out of day. I'm laughing because it's quite possible that you could be right. Ken, Moyes' fourth season at Everton, they qualified. Oh, here we go. Moyes' fourth season at Everton, they qualified the Champions League, but Liverpool won that Champions League. So they took Everton's spot. Then they had to play Villarreal in the playoff and lost. Thank you. I knew you'd have the answers for me. There you go. Let's scroll down. And do forgive me that I'm not going to take into account all your comments. James, good evening to you. When the owners took over, they promised European football for the fans to enjoy again on a regular basis. Do they still think Moyes this season is that person to bring it next season? It's quite possible that he could. It may not be through the league, but if we win the Europa Conference, we're back in the Europa League. 3 seasons in a row in Europe would be a fantastic achievement. Darren, Mancini, Tuchel or Poch will take this team to another level. I like the idea of Tuchel, I'm not sure. Pochettino, I don't know. Maybe. Mancini, would he give up Italy to come and manage us? Interesting. Garino, my team for Wednesday would be the same, maybe bar Agerd and Areola. Team talk would be players you want to play. Let the players express themselves. I want to see Areola and Agerd play on Saturday. I really do. So if that's what you mean by leaving them out on Wednesday, I get it. I would even actually put Bowen in on Wednesday and even someone like Souček on Wednesday and players like that so that they know that if they get picked for that game, they're not playing against Leicester on the Saturday. Lincoln Harper, good evening to you. Anderson, Allaire, Vlasic, Benny, Skamaka, Moyes, no idea how to use talent. There is a pattern building up, isn't there? I have to admit, I can't deny it. Let's scroll down. David, I've moved to a new flat and thought the loud cheering on Saturday was Millwall, but it was Dulwich Town FC. Okay, thank you for that. I hope you're enjoying the new flat. Good evening, Hammerhead. Got to give it to Moyes. He survived an extinction level asteroid millions of years, but I think we're finally seeing the end of dinosaur David Moyes. Good evening, mate. Paul Messina. If he's eventually replaced, I hope whoever gets brought in would want to use the players we've got instead of selling players for a loss and doing a complete overhaul. And here's another danger. You'll get Pochettino or this or that or the other manager in, and he'll go, I don't want him. I want to buy all these other players. And then we've got another turnaround going on, haven't we? That's the danger. That is the big danger. Usual suspect. I saw someone with a strong resemblance to Harry Redknapp collecting brown envelopes near the London Stadium. Hammerhead. This is what happens if you buy old players and just allow them to stay and you don't buy young. Well, yeah, going back, I mean, we've got 6 players in their 30s. You'd expect half them to leave, to be quite honest with you. I mentioned that earlier on about the players who are out of contract at the end of the season, and there are quite a few to be honest with you. There's quite a number of them who are in their 30s. I mean, Lanzini will be 30 next season, but all those other players are well into their 30s, 34, 35, 33, 37, 35, etc., etc. Yeah, we need fresh blood. We certainly do. Andy, Dawes leaving in January, playing like he wants away now. Shame, it was great value for money. Can't keep a player happy if he ain't happy to stay because of family reasons. We know he's not happy. And I think, if he has to go, he has to go. And that's why I want to see a Gerd playing in the Premier League to see if he can. I'm sure he can, but get him in now. Get him playing now. Give him that last game, against Leicester before the World Cup starts. Give him that. Ralph, good evening to you. Alaire's not crap. Absolutely not. I don't think he is. Never did think he was. English Yardie, to be honest, Moyes shouldn't get any winter transfers money to buy players. To me, he's proven he doesn't know. Players are regressing under Moyes. Tactically, Moyes is a dinosaur. A lot of you saying the same thing. Lincoln needs to go 4-4-2. Downs and Rice, Paquetá behind Scamacca. He'll never go 4-4-2, but maybe 4-4-1-1, quite possibly. Or even other people said a 4-3-3, even better. Garino, Paquetá should be playing next to Rice in central midfield. Fornals as central attacking midfield. Play to each other's strengths. Rice as central defensive midfielder. Paquetá dictating play in central mid that he does for Brazil. Good shout. Good shout. WHU, I sat on the fence with Moyes, but the wind blew and I fell onto a heap of manure. I've gone to the dark side. Kai, it reached a point when with Ben Rama now, Moyes is bullying him. There's nothing Ben Rama can do to stay on that pitch. Excuse me. I don't know what is going on there. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And yet again, because he's got Bowen as a favourite and Ben Rama not, he kept Bowen on. He took Ben Rama off. It was a ridiculous decision to make. Let's not. But it was. English Yardie. Still, it's Moyes. Paquetá can't play with Souček. That pairing is the worst. It should be Declan Downs, Paquetá, triangle all over the pitch. With Souček, you can't play with that, and our attack stops. I agree. I've said it. I know. I did back up Souček, and I said, I think maybe he's going through a blip. The blip is lasting a lot longer than I thought it would. But yeah, he's got to drop out of the team. Yeah, I agree. I'm scrolling down. Do forgive me. Andrew, good evening to you. Apologies, but no problem at all. I'm still steaming over yesterday and wanted to calm down a bit more. Moyes needs to be job hunting before tomorrow. God, I mean, there's no one that I don't think. Okay, I'm gonna get to the comments later on, but I'm gonna ask a question. Is there anybody here that believes Moyes should be given more time? I want to find out because I know the majority of you are all saying the same thing at the moment. You want him to leave. You think he's a dinosaur. You don't think he can do the tactics, etc. I want to find out. I want to know if there's anybody that believes that Moyes should stay. And if so, tell me why. Give me a reason why. Don't worry, I'm not going to have a go at you because for me, I've said it. I've nailed my colours to the mast. I think he should stay to the end of the season. It might be sufferable even more, but I think he should, and then see what happens at the end of the season. So tell me, if you believe that Moyes should stay, please put your comment. I'll get to them later, and then and tell me why. Don't just say yes, he should stay. Tell me why, and I'll read them. Hammerhead, can't tell me the position we got in that we wouldn't have won the Europa League with how, or maybe even finished higher. Can't tell me that position we got in that we wouldn't have won the Europa League with how, who? I didn't understand, Hammerhead. Sorry, mate. Lincoln, Potter will be getting sacked soon. Let's see how he fares. Victor, you're probably not wrong. He might not get sacked this season, but I wonder how long he'll stay in that job. Victor, is Paquetá really that good? When he played against us for Lyon, I didn't even know he was playing. He never made any impact on the game. The Premier League is so much tougher. I think it will take someone like him time to adjust. Ironically, I'm actually agreeing with David Moyes there. But I think he is a talent. You're not going to be a Brazil number 10 if you're not talented. Sean, good evening to you. Whether we win the next league game or not, I think Moyes' era is over. He seems to have alienated most of his players. With Moyes' list of shortcomings, he should lay off Ben Rama. It's ridiculous. A lot of you are saying the same thing, and I do agree. I do agree with that. Mandy, good evening to you. Moyes likes to put players and not in their best position. Zuma needs to be right back on the right side of defence and a left-sided player, either Oggy or Gerd. Absolutely agree with that. Good evening, Vision 369. Benrahma was not treated good by this nasty coach. I agree. It was bad the way he was treated. I do agree. English Yardy. Skamaka, I feel for. Moyes has no clue how to utilise our players. It's shocking. Paquetá and Skamaka start for their country. They're good players. I hate being negative. We must do better. And this is me. You know what I'm like. I hate being negative as well. I'm trying to see the positives. I know Moyes, he has shown failings. At the same time, I think some of the players have let themselves down. You know, not just West Ham, but they let themselves down. And I think that some of them should be looking hard. What's happened to Bowen? You know, he's playing in the same position, etc., being given the same freedom. For some reason, it's just not happening for him. Souček, we've said it already. You know, I think he should be replaced. You know, I feel sorry for Fornals, who's been asked to play out of position for most of the time he's been playing under Moyes, and now he should be given an opportunity to show what he can do in the central attacking midfield. A Gerd's in now, or even Ogbonna, like Mandy's just said, play them. Get a left-footed centre-back in there in order for Zuma to play as a right-footed centre-back on the right side of that pitch. Andy, Downs can pass a ball. Sadly, Souček can't pass water. No good for a drugs test. Schmiegel, I can't stand the football under Moyes. Plays for 1-0 wins and makes us sit back and surrender possession to teams like Palace. They had 63% possession at the weekend. £100 million, £180 million spent. I'm not seeing attractive football being played. I agree. I wish I didn't have to, but I do agree. Kai, the players are fine. We've got the squad now, world-class striker, world-class midfielders in Rice and Paquetá, but it's Moyes' fault that they can't get them to work, all down to him for his negativity. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Two we've not brought up. Let's get Schmiegel in. Schmiegel, the crowd aren't entertained by Moyes' football. His treatment of Benrahma is disgusting too. The reason why Moyes doesn't like Benrahma is because he doesn't do defensive work. I don't want, like I said earlier on, when they were under attack, Palace, they had 3 players hanging around them at the centre line, you know, waiting just in case the ball broke. And then the ball broke. And guess what? They scored. There you go. Andy, what was with the hat on Sunday? Moyes and the Pratt in the hat. A bit like McLaren Wally with the brolly. When he was wearing, I thought he was trying to emulate Klopp for a minute. David, there were moments 5 games ago, and I thought Paquetá and Skamaka combo was going to be dynamite. Okay, shoulder injury didn't help, but the Italian has been half ruined. You're all saying much the same stuff, you know, and I'm finding it difficult to sort of not to disagree. Sean, the fans were booing Souček because they can see Moyes is playing favourites. Although I don't like booing our players, it's just off form. I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that they actually applauded Souček coming off, and then they, you know, and I kind of like, it isn't nice. I know, you know, if he's wearing a West Ham shirt, you got to support him, even if a player is playing shit. He's still a West Ham player. I'll get you, Sean. I understand it. It wasn't nice. Usual suspect. I get it. I get Moyes. I get fans. Their feelings. You know, they're expressing their feelings just like they did when Benrahma came off and the fans booed that. Usual suspect. Judging by tonight's text, it hasn't lost the dressing. If he hasn't lost the dressing room, he has definitely lost the supporters. He's losing a lot of supporters, I must admit, especially by the comments he made. Mandy, when you play instinctively, you need to play with confidence. Lots of players are losing their confidence and becoming hesitant. That's a really good point. There is a lot of hesitancy in our game, and maybe that's why our passing has been woeful as well. Really good point, that. David Mora, good evening to you. I will say it again, 11 wins in the last 33 league games. He's had his chance. Moyes out. The stats don't lie, I guess. You know, good point. E. Davis. The fact that he doesn't start Areola, who is a perfect Premier League keeper, is all you need to know. He's inept. Fab is great for Europe. He just gets so many things wrong. Fab has had actually a great season, to be quite honest with you. I won't lie. The only thing I don't like about Fabian, he's actually improved. You know, he's been brilliant. The only thing I don't like about Fabianski is his ball distribution. I think it's woeful. Ian Garden, good evening to you. My patience with Moyes has come to an end. I'd rather put Kevin Keane and Dixie in charge of the first team rather than watch another performance like that. You might have him for the rest of the season, I'm afraid, mate. Good evening, Razor. How are you? Still, I love the show. Stop making excuses not to sack the moron, calling our half fans. We don't know what we're talking about. Get him gone tomorrow, Poch as soon as possible. Thank you for liking the show. And I know we disagree on things. And I'm trying, I'm not, I am at the point, I will not lie. I have been backing Moyes all along. And even at this point, I'm saying, I think, probably for the rest of the season, better the devil because you just don't know how it'll go. You don't know if it'll go well with Pochettino or any other manager. It could do. It could be a brilliant move or it could be a disastrous. We don't know. But in a way, I know I'm beginning to sound like an old record by sort of saying keep Moyes, but keep him until the end of the season and then make that decision then. Will we go down for it? I don't think we'll get relegated. The good thing is there are 3 worse teams in the league than ours, but yeah, it's difficult to keep saying that he should stay. Black Country, come on, Stel. Moyes lost the dressing room. Body language says it all, mate. I think when I look at what's happening and look at the interview like Declan gave, etc. I think the players are as disappointed in themselves as they are in whatever else, tactics, etc., etc. I really do. I think the players have really got to take a good hard look at themselves and ask themselves if they gave everything they could. That they know they could. And I just don't I think there are certain players that just haven't shown up for West Ham for one reason or another. And I'm going to say it, Declan is in that. He started off the season badly. He got better. The game he had on Sunday was woeful. It was terrible. But then again, so were other players. Souček was bad. Bowen was bad. Paquetá, he wasn't on, he came back from an injury. So you could say, it wasn't too bad. Dawson, his passing was terrible. There are a number of players in that team that you rely on that just didn't put in the levels that we know that they can achieve. Dressing room, body language, we don't know what's going on in the dressing room. I'm sure they're all really disappointed at losing the game, etc., especially the way it happened at the last minute. But we don't know. We don't know if he's lost. A lot of people are suggesting that Moyes has lost the dressing room. I don't know yet if that's the case. Patrick, good evening to you. Time to go. Who, me, Moyes, or you? Mandy, that pass from Dawson was not delivered by a confident person. So it's evident there's a universal low in that team. Agreed. Absolutely agree. Keith, Moyes shrugged Benny's goal off as if out of nowhere and from nothing, then goes on to say that he did nothing after the goal. What is Moyes' problem with Benny? Disrespectful. Yeah, I agree. I do not know and I do not understand why he's got it in for Benrahma. I don't get it. And it will not surprise me if Benrahma went in January. Either Moyes sells him or Benrahma puts in a transfer request. Darren, the Lyon coach changed their formation. Yes, I know this one. The Lyon coach changed their formation to get the best out of Paquetá. When they signed him, he was ineffective in a 4-2-3-1. And Moyes can't do that. Why can't Moyes do the same? I agree. I actually do agree. And it's interesting because I remember, and I think I said it on the shows before, when I looked at with the potential when we were potentially signing Paquetá, I read exactly the same thing and looked into it. And you're absolutely spot on. The Lyon coach went to a 4-3-3, and Paquetá relished that. Mandy, when Paquetá plays for Brazil, he has more than one person ahead of him. Yeah, agreed. English Yardie, and this is what's missing with our team. English Yardie, still, Moyes, to be honest, is tactically inept. He has no idea how to implement the new summer signings. It's frustrating to see us being turned over by Palace. It's so annoying. We do have a very good team. I agree. It is extremely annoying. And I agree that the tactics are looking a little bit jaded now, without a doubt. Let's scroll down. Let's see if we've got people in that. Daniela. Kai, please note, no ex-players that have no management experience. Who's Kai saying? No, mate. Absolutely no. No. Di Canio, no. Who said, or was it you that said Di Canio or someone else? Good evening, Neil. How are you? Yeah, Di Canio, bring the fun times back. Well, it will be interesting, wouldn't it? Epic. Good evening to you, mate. What if we're just as awful after the World Cup? We could actually go down. I agree. Look. This is what I said some time back. I said, if we're languishing down there, in the relegation zone or near as damn it down there, I'd be then start advocating that maybe we should be looking for another manager. It sounds like the board are not going to go for that. They're saying for now, they're saying it's Moyes all the way. I agree, Epic. If we get back after the World Cup and it's much of the same, I reckon Moyes will then have probably 3, 4, 5, half a dozen games maybe. And if it doesn't change then, then that is the time, quite likely, when he'll go. And that will give us just enough games, and that'll be then the transfer window will be open, and then you get a manager in. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, then why not just get rid of him now? And the new manager can have the opportunity, the whole transfer window, can have the World Cup break, etc., to get things going. Yeah, there's a good argument for that. But I think the board will stick with Moyes. But if it is more of the same, I think you will see, 3 or 4 games. We got Arsenal, first game back on Boxing Day. And then we got Leeds away. Ain't going to be easy. So, and if it is more of the same, it's quite possible, Epic, that we might see Moyes going then rather than before the World Cup. Who else have we got here? Let's scroll down. Martin, the Greg Taylor testimonial is a very nice gesture. Absolutely. Keith, Bone is playing himself out there. He's played himself out of the England team. I don't believe for a minute that he's going to be selected for that squad now. Patrick, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. All very well and in good faith. Kai, just a message to let you know that I only recently came across your streams and they're brilliant, totally unique compared to the other on West Ham channels. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed, by the way, people, you're not getting notifications. And I don't know why. Check your mobile phone and go to notifications and make sure that you got the bell set up on your notifications for my channel. So please do that. Kai, please become a subscriber. Hit the bell notification, not just on your laptops, but on your phones as well. And then you'll know when I'm on next. Tyler, Tuchel will be taken. Tuchel will taken a like to it. Has taken a like to us. Will take a liking to us. Do you think Tuchel would actually come to a club like West Ham? Do you think Pochettino would actually come to a club like West Ham United? I asked earlier on. Someone tell me if you want Moyes to stay. I've not read one message that's offering that. Let's scroll down. How far behind am I? God, I'm still way behind. Dan, hello, mate. I hope you're well. Palace more than deserved the win on the day. Far better than us from the minute we kicked off. What Antonio was even doing is beyond me. He had 5 options to part. Oh, mate. Apparently Antonio played better when we played better when Antonio was on. No. I love Antonio for what he's done for West Ham United over the seasons he's been with us. But just because he's got number 9 on the back of his shirt doesn't make him a striker. It was awful. I thought it was a dead cert penalty, and I was embarrassed at the fact that he dived, and he did dive. He had a little touch, a little tug, but not enough to go down. The cross, reminiscent of when we were at Palace a few years ago. He had all the time in the world, and he did exactly the same thing. He crossed it into the arms of the keeper, and out it went, and they scored straight away. Dan, again, at the moment, it feels all very much like his time at Everton. The year after he spent money, he finished 17th, but to his credit, finished top 10 thereafter the next few years. I mentioned that earlier, so there you go. There is hope, quite possibly. I'm cracking on. I need a drink of water, but I'm cracking on. Victor, if Moyes keeps losing football matches, he'll be gone. The club will not spend 170 million to end up in the Championship. I agree. And I said that earlier on. If he doesn't go, and I don't think he will go during the World Cup break, but as I can't remember who said it now, whoever asked, Epic said, what happens if he's playing the same way after the World Cup, if the first few games are the same? If they are the same and there's nothing changed at all, in tactics, in approach, in lineup, etc., and we're getting the same results, then I will think that the board will bite the bullet then and get rid of him in January. Carl, Moyes said last season he likes working with a small squad. Now we know why. We absolutely do. Andy said that earlier today. Paul Antonio, double assist for that second goal. VAR added time plus his pass to the keeper, setting up the quick move with half our team in their box. You talking about that other season as well. Fedez on 2K. Good evening to you. Very disappointed with Paquetá. Seems very sloppy. Makes silly decisions throughout the game. Think a new manager could be perfect for us to play a new style for the whole team to learn together. Good point. But I would say, Paquetá only just came back from injury. But in all honesty, after 60 minutes, that's when Paquetá should have maybe been rested. English Yardy. And Moyes and Southgate, to be honest, probably went to the same lackluster football academy. I hate being negative about our club. Just looking at Declan's face was hard post-match during that game. I know people are going to hate me for it, but Declan should look in the mirror and ask himself how well or how badly he played as well. David, everyone will have to eat a huge slice of humble pie if we finish 17th, win a cup and qualify for Europe. I won't eat. I'll be ecstatic. I don't want to finish 17th. I want to finish a little bit higher. But if we win the Europa Conference and then get back into Europe, fuck me, that'll be a get out of jail card, wouldn't it? Jerry, my concern is not can we stay up, but can we keep these gifted players playing like this? If we have money in January, who would want to come? Good shout. Really good point. If they're looking at what's going on at the moment, why would any player want to come to West Ham United? It's a good shout. Apart from money, of course. David, hi mate. No movement off the ball. We are so negative and boring. We are quite static, David. I must admit, it's been disappointing. In the way we're playing. Is that hesitancy? Is that tactics? Is David Moyes telling them all to stand still? Like, we get the ball and no one's looking to move. On Sunday, when Palace got the ball, the minute they got the ball, they were like like little ants running around all over the place. Movements, passing each other, overlapping, etc., etc. We had none of that. I was envious at the way Palace played. Razor, still, Moyes had since last December to change. Spent 180 million, gets worse than before to watch. So why would you want that poor coach to stay till the end? Stop making excuses. I'm not making excuses. I have said it. I've said it. I said a few weeks back, if we're languishing down the bottom when the World Cup comes, I wouldn't be averse to sort of like Moyes going. But I don't think the board are going to get rid of him. I'm not making excuses for him. I think the play has been getting worse. And maybe, I think Mandy might have said it, and other people have said it, there's a hesitancy in the way we play now. Are we beginning to fear? We've got that fear factor when we go out on the pitch on the Premier League. Vinay, but then why haven't we got that in the Europa Conference? And yes, you could argue we're playing inferior opposition, but we seem to be playing with not just the last game, but throughout the whole of the Europa League so far. We've been playing quite open and creating chances, etc., and looking like we're enjoying our football. And then we hit the Premier League, and it's like we're hitting a brick wall. Vinay, a manager slagging off people under him in public for no reason, not cool. That's Moyes on Benny, who happens to be his best attacking player. Benny reminds him he has dino tactics. That upsets David Moyes. Garino, Argentine Cup final ended early after 10 players were sent off. Wow, when was that played? Dan, Tuchel would be class still, 60% win percentage with Chelsea. Unreal they sacked him, to be fair. But do you honestly think he'd want to come to West Ham United? I don't know. I don't know. Patrick, we need to give Moyes 200 million to spend next summer to continue build. David, I think Mancini would on 10 million a year. Italy aren't at the World Cup. He's already won something with them, and I think he'd like a Premier League challenge. He'd be interesting. I think he'd be a very interesting shout. Marley, good evening to you. Moyes given more time, no one realistic available, 2 great seasons, having a blip in the Premier League, but can still win conference. We've always said a trophy over league position. I think we should ride it out. Good shout. And that's where I'm at the moment. I'm nervous about it because if we do get relegated, I'm going to be absolutely slaughtered. But I think you're right. And I've said it. I've said if we finish mid-table and win a trophy, I'd be all right with that. It won't be great, but why won't it be great? A day out at Wembley or a day out in Prague, and winning a trophy, why not? Why not? And if we finish mid-table and no more than that, then that puts us back into Europe. We're in Europa Conference again. 3rd season in a row. No West Ham manager has ever taken West Ham United to Europe 3 seasons in a row. Andrew, no, Sunday was too big a screw up to forgive his disrespect for Benrahma was disgusting. Paul, Sojek probably best serves the team coming off the bench late when we're in need of an equaliser from a set piece. I agree with that. Johnny Rick, no, I am on my own about asking about if anyone wants to keep Moyes, it seems. Well, I don't know, actually. I did get Marley who agreed with me. Dan, been very much on the fence, as you know, mate. Felt he's had enough good grace for the last 2 years, but he has once again proved he can't manage quality players. Appears he's lost the dressing room, in my opinion. A few people have mentioned that tonight already. Carl, He should be given more time until a week Monday should be long enough. Fair play. Benai. I want Moyes to stay to the end of the season because my bet will come through and I can go on a round world trip and buy a car. Kai, I only want him to go if Poch or Mancini or Tuchel is available. I only want him to go because the others are available. Paul, no, Stel, he should be gone already. Sorry, mate. Black Country, no, time's up. Look at the stats, Stel. Stats don't lie. I was asking a question. I wasn't trying to get approval of what I think. Patrick, Moyes should stay because the last 30 months have been the best consecutive 30 of our entire history. And that is true. It actually is. We are playing shit, but we've had some fantastic times under him. Devon and Dave, I'm still undecided, as don't know who we're able to get in and further rebuild. Well, people have been talking and people keep talking about Pochettino, Tuchel, Mancini. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Mancini. Neil, if I wanted to watch boring football, I would be an Arsenal supporter. Well, they're not playing boring football at the moment, are they? Schmiegel, Moyes has come in and laid a foundation, but now we have got better quality players. He doesn't know how to get the best out of them. £180 million spent, and we're still seeing awful football. And the irony is he has come in and laid the foundations for the future. This is the thing. Let's not forget what he's done. You know, the scouting network, the setup, you know, getting us out of relegation twice, you know, getting to Europe twice, etc. There's a lot to be thankful for, but I do get what people are saying at the moment with regards to his style of football. I get it. Daniela, I think he should stay till the end of the season due to the right manager may not be available. I'm guessing you don't want Pochettino and Mancini and Tuchel then. Mandy, Leicester won the league, Pat, then sacked their manager the following season. Marley again. Also, look at our history. Most successful managers we've had got us right. This is absolutely true. Managers were allowed to build teams. Moyes' only option to do that for us realistically. And here's the rub. I think I said it maybe last week or the week before. John Lyall, much loved manager at West Ham United, relegated us twice. Now, if he was managing in today's game, what would we be thinking of someone like John Lyall? This is all a lot of social media. Like, I think it's gone now with Moyes and negative football has gone beyond social media now. Whereas you get a lot of noise in social media, people are now saying it out in the stadiums, etc., etc. But John Lyall wouldn't last 5 minutes in today's game with our fans. He wouldn't be given the opportunity, and yet he built successful. You know, we won things under Lyall, and yet at the same time, we also got relegated. Jonathan, I believe he should be given the end of the season. I don't think we'll get relegated. So just the roller coaster. But where we finish and how we do in Europe will dictate if he should have longer in the project process. Good point. Yeah. So if we win something and we don't get relegated, by winning something, it's quite possible he could extend his time at West Ham. If we get knocked out of the Europa Conference League, and we finish mid-table or below 10th, then maybe, yes, the board will go, time for you to go. Good point. English Yardie, if we lose to Leicester, it's the same as usual. Moyes must go. Lose to Leicester, Moyes must go. Howard, I believe Moyes should be given the season unless we go out of Europe early, then see what managers are about after the World Cup. We should have some choices available. 4-3-3, a must with our squad. James, Moyes in. Besides, wow, you're the first. I mean, others have said believe he should stay, but you're like Moyes in. Besides, it's best for my burgeoning popcorn business. Keith, if we sack Moyes, who do we get? At this stage of the season, it would be like swapping deck chairs on the Titanic. Moyes needs to talk into about respect, though. Absolutely agree. Mandy, Bowen cannot move away from the line so he can cover the right back. It's that obvious. Well, I don't think Kehrer needs to be covered, to be quite honest with you. It's not like the other side where we kept having Fornals covering for Creswell, which I understood didn't like, but I understood. But I don't think he needs to cover the right back. Good evening, Mihailo. How are you? David Moyes is old. He's stubborn. Doesn't play that much attacking, but he deserves respect because he made this team. He played well. He won games, and the most important, he will win the UEFA Europa Conference League. That is positive for you. Good evening, Moore. Yeah, I remember you messaged me and said, say that quickly. Moyes out. There you go. Got it. I am surprised Moyes says kids considering does everything up. Marley, only two names mentioned is Poch and Tuchel, and we've got Mancini now as well. Poch is a serial loser, and Tuchel plays similar shape to Moyes, low block, back five. It's like for me. Oh, there you go. Interesting. Kai, even if we win the next two games, if he still does these stupid substitutions and does not play the players to their strengths, I want him out. Dan, the bit that annoys me is how a manager who's been in the game as long as he has can't highlight who his best players are and how to use them. Dug out the experts by hardly proving he is one. Good point. How far off am I? I'm catching up. I really am. Lee, he deserves more time, and I do believe he will turn things around with his players. We're still in Europe. Plus, we all know what our players can bring when they're on fire. If you don't get in World Cup, if you don't get in WC, if you don't get in the WC if you're crap. Thank you. Paul, I think Moyes is past his shelf life, but he's done some good things as far as scouting systems concerned. Maybe he might have something to add to the club as an exec, but as a manager, I'm Moyes out. Interesting. DJR, he should stay if he gets 10 points in the next 5 games. At least 5 points lost due to VAR and missed penalties. Players' mistakes have cost us points, but he's old school. Should let the players have a go earlier. It's a really good point, and this is where when people argue about Moyes out, I do look at the games and I do ask myself, look, yet again, and I hate to repeat myself, but I'm going to. In the second game of the season, all right, we played shit against Man City and we let them walk over us. And then against Forest, we missed a penalty. We were all over them, couldn't score. We missed a penalty against Liverpool. We were all over them. We were all over Man United. Couldn't get anything out of that. There have been some games where we had played excellent football. A lot of people will argue all played quite late in the game, but and people are saying we've got a talented squad. We have played some excellent football. Are the nerves beginning to sort of set on the players, especially at home? There's so much expectation that it's actually making them make mistakes. The game, the way we played at the weekend was just frustrating. Like I said earlier on, professional footballers couldn't pass to each other. They couldn't get the ball from A to B successfully. Either mishit passes, too hard, too soft, or whatever. It was weird. It was odd. And that adds to the pressure. That adds to the nerves, etc. We're not playing freely, but there may be a point, as a lot of people are saying, not playing freely because of tactics, but also maybe there's the nervousness of losing or losing out, etc., is maybe getting to the players. But Moyes is the manager. He needs to manage that as well. Martini, good evening to you. Moyes doesn't have the tactical awareness to fix it. His history tells us that. But there's the irony, Martini, because his history tells us that he's had some excellent seasons with Everton in the past. Trevor, was Moyes afraid to replace the 2 potential English World Cup players on Sunday? Well, Bowen, he didn't do Bowen any favours by keeping him on because Bowen was poor all game. The real Simpsons, good evening to you. End of last season and this season combines shows we are relegation fodder. Moyes has had more than enough time and time's up. Good evening, Scarborough. How are you, mates? My problem is that our press is crap. We sit back and allow teams to play. I agree with that, and we shouldn't. We need a Gerd in the side so we can push higher up the field. Downs, Rice, and Paquetá in midfield. A Gerd, I did a show on a Gerd a few weeks ago, and I think we are missing someone that can carry the ball out of defence. I do agree. Black Country. Look at players Moyes had at Manure. Couldn't cope with a big squad. Just my opinion. Yeah, interesting point. Good evening to you, Scott. I hope you're well. Moyes out. Scarborough, I play a 3-5-2. Areola, Kera, Dawson, Zuma, Agerd, Emerson, Rice, Downs, Paquetá, Skamaka, and Benrahma. Interesting attacking lineup. And even, at the back, Kera, Dawson, Zuma. I'd actually drop Dawson, to be honest with you. I'd have Ogbonna in there. I'll be really honest. Zuma, Agerd, and Ogbonna I'd have in the centre of defence with the likes of Kera and maybe Emerson on out on the flanks, and then Rice, Downs, Paquetá, Skamaka, Benrahma. I'd even find a way of fitting Fornals in there, if for who though, or maybe Fornals coming on for the likes of Paquetá if Paquetá is tiring or not doing it. Nil. I'm sure I've heard we have 33 points from the last 31 games. That's not good. It's not good at all. I agree. Beats. Genuinely think the squad flatters to deceive. Well, good point. Do we think they're better than they really are? Maybe they're not as good. But then you look at them, and I said earlier, the Italian number 9, the Brazilian number 10, the England number 4, etc. We've got some very, very good players in there. Peter, we have Arsenal, Brentford, Leeds after the World Cup. Great. Not difficult then, eh? Lee, I'd love Noble to manage us eventually. He is Mr. West Ham, but I want to see him prove himself managing a lower league club and showing that he can do it before he comes anywhere near managing West Ham. Sorry, Lee. Paul, the reality is our league form from the last 12 months is relegation form. Honestly, if he stays, I don't think we'll stay up. Sounds drastic, but we've been here before. Can't rely on 3 teams being worse. At the moment, I think we do have 3 teams that are worse, to be quite honest with you. Alan Dunn, Ant's time has come. You can tell he's tired. He keeps laying down. Antonio's. Antonio, are you talking about? Oh, should be a sub and no more than that. Trevor, well, he is now. Trevor, Moyes took Benny off because he was afraid to replace either of the 2 potential English. And why? A couple of people have said that. I don't know. I don't think he did Bowen any favours at all by keeping him on. Ahmed, it's amazing. All we keep saying is when he changes or transition, when will our fans understand the Dino is the one that needs transition? He will not, hence, he has never won anything. I wonder what will happen if we do win a cup this season. Japan. Imagine Benrahma going to Besiktas with Masuaku. Idiots, Moyes. Why you freaks? You're not happy there, are you? Why would he go to Besiktas? Benny to Besiktas? I don't know. No. Paul, it all stems from Moyes. He's like an overbearing father giving out his hard stare from sidelines if a player dares to ignore his orders. Foe, good evening to you. I'm not surprised, brother. What are you not surprised? I'm surprised you're here. How are you, Foe? I hope you're well. How far am I? Almost caught up. And then I can go and get a drink of water. Neil, Moyes has been good for this club. Cheers, mate. Fell into that one. Usual suspects. Moyes should stay at the London Stadium as a vacancy has arisen at the hot dog stand as a sausage seller. It's the funny hour. We got into it now, haven't we? Foe, I warned everyone at the beginning of the season will be a tough watch in the Premier League because I'm still optimistic about winning Europa Conference League. I'm optimistic about winning it as well. Johnny, he's serving up sewage at present. Certainly in the Premier League he is. The Luxter, good evening to you. I worry about his communication levels. He calls Knife, Nathan, calls Jono, Ben Johnston, without Percy, Irvin. Don't think his style gains respect from non-first language English speakers. Robert Bryan, we get passed off the park by every team, home or away. He's unable to change his tactics and he's stubborn. But this is the irony, though. We were passed off the park against Palace. They did play better than us. But then against Man United, against Liverpool, against a number of other teams this season, we were passing them off the park, but just not finishing the game off. Vinay, Moyes is a boring git. I can't stand negative football with skillful players. He seems to think he's managing Sunderland. Do you not think we played well in some of the games? I mean, I don't know. Neil, it's YouTube channels like this that breeds our thanks. I'm trying to be on the fence. Clearly, I'm not. I'm really trying desperately to be balanced about this. I really have. Mark, sack Moyes, but bring him back if we're still in relegation back in March. Perfect. Daniela, no, still, I don't like them. They're short-term managers. Going to say this. I like Patrick Vieira. I think he's doing brilliantly at Crystal Palace. But yeah, Pochettino, Tuchel, etc. They're not for the long term, are they? What is it we want? Do we want the long term, or do we want a quick fix and then and then what? And then those managers get sought after again. They make their names again at West Ham, and then another big club comes and off they go. And then what? Vinay, Moyes screwed up by not making January signings. I was shocked he didn't want any new players. Apparently he did. Apparently they weren't available. Depends on what you want to believe. Moyes Nans, take anywhere in 10th and win the conference, good or bad? Good. I would say if we finish mid-table and we win the Europa Conference, I think It's and ignore your name, Moist Nans. I was wondering, I'm not going to say it, but yes, I would take a mid-table finish and win the Conference League. In all honesty, if we win a cup competition, when was the last time we won a fucking cup? Seriously, when was the last time we went to a final? Whether it be the League Cup, FA Cup, European, I would bite your hand off to finish mid-table and win the Europa Conference. Absolutely. I think that would be a fantastic day out for the fans. It really would be. Chalky, good evening to you. If I was Ben Rama, I'd have a transfer request, sick of this manager. I said it earlier, to be quite honest with Chalky. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Ben Rama went in January. It would not surprise me at all. Alan, do people think Moyes' negativity is due to trying to protect the players going to the World Cup and not getting them injured? It's not his responsibility. Excuse me. It's not his responsibility who gets picked and who doesn't get picked and who's fit and who's not fit for the World Cup. I don't think other managers are worrying about that. And David Moyes shouldn't worry about it either, to be quite honest with you. Vinay, did you watch the Netflix documentary on Moyes by David Attenborough? The asteroid was really traumatic. I'm scrolling down because you lot are getting funny now. Scott, how are you? Be careful what you wish for. As compared to the Allardyce days where we are currently enjoying amazing glory days. It's true. And this is the irony. You know, as much as everyone wants Moyes gone, we're through to the last 16 of the Europa Conference League. If we win that competition, we're in Europe again next season. Hopefully not at the expense of the Premier League, but it's true. Nobody in this chat understands what's happened behind the scenes. Pretty easy to criticize, not easy to lead. Good point. Moist Nans again. Not sure. Change the name, mate. Just disappointing how much we spent up there with the highest in transfers. Moyes can bring them in, not get the best out of them. What I've said earlier is I'm so glad that there's two halves to this season. I really am hoping that after the World Cup, we're going to see a very different West Ham United going for it in the Premier League. I really am. I'm looking forward to a total break from football after the game on Saturday. Yeah, it would be. I'm not excited about the World Cup. Is anyone excited about the World Cup? I'm not. And I usually really get excited about the World Cup. But for the first time in many a year, I'm not. Foe, we have no pace in the team and don't play to our strengths, aerial or set pieces, especially with Skamaka in the lineup. Scott, serious question. Is the negative mindset simply a West Ham trait due to so many heartbreaks in the past? I've only been a fan since 96. No, I think the negativity at the moment is because we are expecting, I said this some shows ago. Moyes might be the victim of his own success, where we have overachieved for the past two seasons. That set a mindset, and then we've gone out and spent 160 million pounds, and the mindset's gone. Fuck me, we've begun to believe the song that we are massive. We're not. We are a mid-table football team who's had the opportunity to fantastic opportunity to play in Europe 2 seasons in a row, have now been given a vast amount of money to really invest in the squad. And I know it's gone wrong so far, but I think we've kind of got to the point where we actually think we're bigger than we really are. And I know people aren't going to like hearing that, but I think that's actually true. I think now we are not a regular top 6 team. We're striving to get there, and it would be great to sort of make that shift, that we are expected to be in the top 8 every season. But we just and it is a difficult season. 8 new players coming in is not easy. A lot of people are saying Moyes can't manage them. They're probably right. Maybe they are right. Maybe Moyes can't manage some of these players. But it is a big transition. And I said earlier, we've got another number of players who are out of contract at the end of this season, 6 players. And if they all go, we've got another transition coming up as well. Whether that be Moyes in charge or someone else, that is a transition. So, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. I think this is the thing. We're sort of at that point where do we really believe that we're bigger than we really are? Carl, I'm worried he does win a cup, make it impossible to get rid at the end of the season. Cut loose now, or we're not, or we're having the conversation. But this is it, Carl. This is what I'm asking. If we win a cup competition, surely we want that as fans, wouldn't we? Even if our league form isn't as great, and so long as we don't get relegated, but goodness me, winning a cup. West Ham United, when was the last time we won a cup? Last time we were close in 86. Before that was 80. You know, we haven't won a cup for so many years that to win a cup competition, this one, I'd biting the hands off to go to a cup final. I'd love it, absolutely love it. And if it's Moyes that gets us there, surely that vindicates keeping him. Here, that's the double whammy, isn't it? Beats Benrahma couldn't play for a bigger team than West Ham. Probably not. But then he's got to be looked after here at West Ham. Ming, good evening to you. Still, you said we will win the European Conference League. Now you're saying it again. We will win nothing under Moyes. Negative, boring, 7. We were so close, Ming. And I did say that last year. But how close were we? And yes, I'm sticking my neck out on the line again. And I'm saying that we're going to get close again. I think we'll win. Yes, we will. James, Stel and all should buy 8 keepers if Moyes want to play that way. Good evening to you, James. Alan, I would look seriously at the Celtic manager. 1 trophy is everywhere he's been and plays attacking football. Let's get to the last few comments. What am I up to? I'm close. Schmiegel. We're not Mandy. We're not massive Stel, but we have a go and do not fear anyone. And we should continue to have a go. Totally agree. Schmiegel. I'm always hearing the words, be careful what you wish for, but I'm certain that there's better managers out there that will get the team playing better. Fans want to be entertained. I do agree with that, but where to next? You know, the managers that people have been advocating, Pochettino, etc., as people have said, they're not there for the long term. What do we want at West Ham United? Do we want the quick fix and then lose that good manager and then go another 2 years having a mediocre manager and then going out and trying to get another good manager to give us that quick fix again? What do we want? You know, because there's no way of saying that getting the likes of Pochettino, etc., is going to give us long-term benefit. You know, he might do well, might get us to play a bit better, might not win anything. As Pochettino, you know, I don't know. I get why the board will want to keep Moyes because he's building something, but I also get, yes, the football is not great at the moment. I totally agree with that as well. Patrick, I watched our under-21s beat Wolves tonight and I really enjoyed it. I had to turn the chat off because it was too negative, a complete pain. It's been like that on almost every show you watch at the moment. That's why I'm trying to be that, you know, sitting on the fence, and it's difficult. It's difficult. I'm down to the bottom. Keith. FIFA event. This World Cup is about brown envelopes. Of course it was. I can't and won't get excited for a World Cup in a country with utter murderous human rights. I agree with that. That's it. Kai, I want Champions League with Pochettino. There's no suggesting he'll get us there, though. Mandy, I would like to see a balanced team that can attack with purpose and defend with valor. Well, you want a lot, don't you? James, is it the back room that's not working as well? They seem pretty close. Yeah, I asked what Warburton was doing, you know, since, you know, and it seems no impact, to be quite honest with you. Depan, I want modern with Pochettino too, bored with the slowly wrestling Moyes, but how long would a Pochettino type manager stay? Martin, just get the team gelled and giving their all. Players not buying into Moyes anymore. Pat Holland fan, good evening to you. Hi, Anton. Currently in Singapore. It's not Anton, mate. You got the wrong channel, but thanks for joining. That's it. Thank you all. Much appreciated. I've done 2 hours. I spent about an hour and a half of that getting your comments out. Thank you very much for getting involved. That's what it's all about. Really appreciate it. I'll be back soon with another show. I've got now I'm doing a new show which is called X number of things that we've learned. So I've done 2 already. If you haven't seen them, go into the back catalogue of my videos. I did the 7 things that we learned against FCSB, and I think I did the 5 things that we learned against Crystal Palace, and I'll be doing that after every game from now on. There'll be other things coming up. You know, the if you haven't subscribed yet or become a member of the website that I keep promoting, 6foot2.co.uk. Do become a member of that because there's some fantastic content on there. And like I keep telling you, you know, you don't have to go anywhere else for your West Ham content because it's all there in one. And I also do shows off the back of that. So when there are news stories coming out, I'll do a 10-15 minute news story on a daily basis about the latest subject matters. So do look out for those as well. Do hit the like and subscribe button if you've enjoyed the show, etc. And don't forget to hit the bell notification, not only on your laptop and your computer, but also on your phone as well. Thank you all very much. Really much appreciated. Yeah, I've got 21 more. See, right. Everyone's saying thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to you as well. Really appreciate it. Have a fantastic week. Let's hope the fucking rain stops raining. The rain stops raining. Let's hope it stops raining. And I'll see you all very, very soon. Have a good week.